Waiting for delay. Do you always cut out the delay, or do you say screw it, Ziggy?
Nah, I just go with whatever you put in there, man, most of the time. So this is probably all included.
Hey, everyone from YouTube and everyone on Twitch. Welcome to State of Exile, episode 34, The Reign of Malachi.
State of no sleep. Yes.
State of no sleep and one-shots in QQ. All right. So, today we got Cha Subao. Did I say it right? The pork bun guy.
Yes.
Welcome to the stream, and welcome to the podcast, man. It's an honor having you here.
Thanks, man. It's good to be here.
Today we're going to be discussing our thoughts with the expansion so far, 2.0, the leagues, the new Tempest League. We can't really discuss warbands because no one's really given it a shot yet. Next episode, I'll try to get a warbands personality in here so we can get some more info about that. We're going to discuss new skills release. You know, you got your Frost Blades, your Wild Strikes, Magma Orbs, etc., etc. The new zones and bosses. And then, obviously, Act 4, the Malachi fight difficulty. And we'll finish up with a Q&A. At some point, we're going to talk about some uniques, too. I got a lot of those to show. Not all of them, but a couple of them screen capped, so we can go over that. So let's kick it off. What's everyone been up to? Cha, what have you been playing?
Two-handed Ice Crash Marauder. It is the most dangerous of things. And I'm so much slower than everybody around me. It's really frustrating.
Not feeling the fun. Last time I played Resolute Technique Ice Crash or Two-Handed Ice Crash, it was so fun to level.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the leveling is fun, and then you find the Act 4 bosses. And it's like, oh, okay, never mind. I can't face tank anything at all. Not even these white mobs.
I'm going to disagree with you, and I know you like a good debate, Cha. I played
yeah.
a two-hand RT Ice Crash Duelist, and I was able to face tank everything except Malachi Slams, which I avoided.
Well,
But
yeah.
90% estimated physical, keep up your endurance charges and fortify, use the tools GGG gives us, and I did quite well.
Yeah, my problem is that I'm trying to keep up with the pace of my caster buddies, and I haven't exactly had the best RNG as far as weapon drops, armor drops, etc. So, like, life rolls on your gear. That's one thing that I was really lacking for a long time.
So it sounds like you're just struggling with gear, yeah.
Yeah, just a bad streak of RNG. It's nothing crazy. Just a little farming will fix it, but it takes time, and I don't want to spend time making my friends wait for me, you know?
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Trade, buy rushes, you know. All of those wussy things.
How do you feel about Ice...
recipes.
Oh, sorry.
Right?
How do you feel about Ice Crash overall, though? Do you still think, since the nerf in beta, now that it's released live, do you think it's like a top 3 contender melee skills? Do you think it's like super solid?
Oh, for sure. I would say Ice Crash is in a very strong number 2 position. Still miles and miles away from Cyclone, but that's Cyclone.
Yeah, that's what everyone's been saying. I don't know. I really like Ice Crash. I like the fact that it makes you think the way how to play melee. You know, no multi-strike, scaling attack speed has a penalty. I do. The only real problem is you have to have a single target, which can put you in a weird spot.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Last time I played it was before the nerf in beta, and it was pretty decent for single target. Did it change since then? Or
Yeah, they nerfed the damage by about 20%, and the AOE, the base AOE was as if you had Amplify with Ink AOE, and now it's
I knew that they
smaller.
changed how the staging of the damage worked. Didn't know if they reduced its single target effectiveness. Or a straight damage nerf would have done that.
Yeah, conk effect for single target is almost a must now.
Mm-hmm. I just use Molten Strike because I was like, I'm scaling just weapon damage. I threw Point Blank on it, and I was good to go. Point Blank gem because they buffed Point Blank.
So do you swap to Molten Strike for Malachi kills or other boss kills?
With the way how I fight Malachi, I have Fortify linked to my Ice Crash. So until he does his slam in phase 1, I just use Ice Crash because I don't want to get locked in multi-strike. But once he does his slam, I avoid it. Then I just Molten Strike spam and just keep up your Enduring Cry and Fortify in between.
I hear you. Sounds legit.
Go for the Molten Strikes when he's doing his little tentacles.
Yeah. Tentacles, he's locked in place, beat him up.
Mm.
So what are you playing right now,
like...
Ziggy? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say that, like, a lot of people, like, playing the fight as a ranged character and feeling the insanity of it and how messy and all that it is, and saying that, it'll be impossible for melee, but it seems like it's not too unfriendly for melee.
Phase 1 is really unfriendly for melee.
You just have to pick your moments a little bit. Like,
Agreed.
When you move in.
Melee requires more player skill, in my opinion.
The thing with Malachi is if you're melee, phase 1 you have to be extremely patient, and phase 2 is a joke. for melee, in my opinion. Because like the one-shot mechanic in phase 1, Range rarely sees. He lifts up his scepter and he slams the ground. But in phase 2, he impales Piety with it, so he doesn't have it anymore. He throws these fire traps on the ground instead.
So that's the only thing that's what I was going to say. The fight doesn't really have too much inherently anti-melee apart from that slam in phase 1.
And it'll one-shot you. It will one-shot you.
Also getting one-shot by chicken McNuggets.
Yeah.
That's very possible. It happened to me several times, especially in Merciless.
Getting one-shot by what?
By the we've been calling it the nugget toss. You know, he throws a little gray spike things.
I call it slug toss because he throws like the slug cocoons.
3K in Merciless or something, I think.
Yeah, and they shotgun because it's an AOE.
Yeah. When he's below a certain health, it's a bunch of them.
Yeah, when he's on the final heart.
I told Rory about the shotgunning, and he said they're probably going to investigate whether they can remove shotgunning on it, otherwise toning the damage down on that. So
I really
that's
like
likely to get changed.
If they just remove the shotgunning on it, I feel like the damage is scary as hell, and it's just in the right place. Like it's manageable.
Yeah, one is fine, but getting hit by 3 of them, I did get one shot by that when I was testing in beta.
Yeah.
It's all physical damage. Like if your evasion, obviously it's rolling the dice. But when I played an armor build, and as long as I kept up my stuff, none of it did damage to me. The only thing that really hurt me was the traps, the little fire traps on the ground. That was it. I don't know. And then in phase 1, do not go through that Piety beam if you're melee. So that's what you have to worry about, the one shot and that Piety beam, because the Piety beam does lightning damage and automatically shocks you. So an automatic shock is no bueno.
Going back to the melee versus range, I've done the fight from a range perspective in Cruel, and I've done the fight from a melee perspective in Cruel. And I actually want to say, from my personal opinion, meleeing is much easier. The only thing you have to worry about as a melee character is in the first phase, going back to the slamming. Sometimes when you're trying to angle and fight Piety, you can't get the right angle, and it opens you up for getting slammed by Maokai, which would get you insta-killed. But in the second phase, everything's a joke to me, because you're melee, you only have an opportunity window anyway to hit the boss. And if you're using something like Cyclone, for example, you know, you can just constantly make circles around the room, and every time you circle by, you could hit, like the belly part, and then you could just keep constantly moving through. The only issue I'll say is if you're playing an evasion-based melee and you don't have mitigation, taking an auto attack from him on Cruel will hit you for astronomical amounts of damage. But if you have Fortify and Endurance charges up, honestly, in Cruel, you don't get hit that hard at all. Like, I was doing it and didn't really have any problem. And I only had like 3 or 4K armor, maybe like max, but just 5 Endurance charges, Fortify, and nothing really hit you for, huge sources of damage. Of course, the slam is going to get you killed, but
the thing about Fortify is it actually is calculated after armor and endurance charges, soul steal, all of that. So because it's calculated after that stuff, for evasion-based characters, it does a lot more than it does for armor characters. Obviously, for armor characters, it's very good for elemental damage and chaos damage, but in terms of physical damage, Fortify does a lot more for evasion than it does for armor characters. And with that said, I really like the fact that you could, like in a 5-link scenario or a 4-link scenario, I unequip a more multiplier and added fire type effect, and I throw in Fortify. I will lose the damage just to have that up permanently, so I don't risk losing my character.
Maybe this is the softcore player in me talking, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I tried it a couple of times, and I always just take that Fortify out, pop it back on the leap slam, and call it a day.
I ain't gonna leap slam into a Maokai slam. I'm good.
I don't know. I like leap slam for the fight with Fortify because there's so many minions up, and I'm just constantly jumping around. Because I don't know. For me again, you've got like the projectiles that they form and they split off. So I'll just jump in between them, and that keeps Fortify up. But of course, there's not really much of it. You can just replace added fire and put it in. But I like the fight. I think it's mechanically fun again. I think one advantage melee has over range, and this could totally just be my opinion speaking, is usually if you're playing a melee, I'm going to go with the left side of a tree, not on the evasion-based right side. You have ample amounts of life regeneration, and in that fight, there's a lot of running. When you're running, you're regenerating life, assuming you're not portaling every 2 seconds. So I don't know, I feel like it's a really big sustained fight.
I agree.
Z, what have you been playing right now?
I've been playing a Firestorm Flame Totem character, like most other casters that have been leveling, but or some variation of something Flame Totem. But I am going to be transitioning into Summon Raging Spirits. It's last time I played SRS was right when it launched, and I don't know if you remember, but it was pretty poopy when it launched. So I wanted to go back and give it a go now that apparently it's pretty much top of its game. It seems like SRS at the moment is probably going to be the best it's ever going to be, because it's been pretty damn good for a while, and it seems to have only gotten better in this, and I can't imagine it getting better again after this. So it seems like right now is the moment for SRS to shine. So I thought, good chance to go try out some Summoner. This is like the most foreign to me in all of Path of Exile, things that I could play too, so I've, on top of like the fear of going through Cruel Malachi and Act 4 and stuff, and the awkwardness there, I'm also trying to work a switch over into a Summoner character from, you know, Firestorm Flame Totem, which Firestorm Flame Totem is so godly for leveling. Oh my god, it's so fun and so strong. And I had no investment in damage, no passives for damage whatsoever. I took 3 duration nodes, which helped Firestorm. No investment and just all HP, and it was so good.
Wow,
it was so strong. This is post Flame Totem nerf, guys. I know I got Flame Totem nerfed, but it's still good. It's still good.
It's still insane. I remember one of my friends, not to go off topic, but he was playing in Warbands, and he's playing a melee build. He was playing Cyclone, and he was in like normal Act 3, and he's like, "Oh, Flame Totem dropped," and he's like, "So this is the OP skill, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it got nerfed," and he just used like a level, like a basic, you know, level 4. Well, it's for level 1, but required 4 Flame Totem, and it was like instantly killing white mobs in Act 3. And he's like, "What?"
The level 1 gem all by itself?
Yeah, it kills stuff by itself.
So
I
stupid
promise
right
you,
now.
it's so strong. He's playing like a melee build, and he's just like level 1 Flame Totem. Oh, it still does damage. Level 1.
Wow, nice balance.
It's just like, even if you're not using it as like going full on dual totem, which like a lot of people are doing and stuff for the Malachi fight, just as an added skill for many other leveling setups, it's good. Like if you're playing Poison Arrow Fire Trap, chuck a Flame Totem on there. You're like leveling any spellcaster, chuck a Flame Totem on there. It's like easy. On a 3-link, just use like Added Cold, Added Lightning. That's going to carry you through. That's what I've done. I've done Flame Totem with Added Cold, Added Lightning. I did Firestorm with Added Cold, Added Lightning, and I eventually switched out to fast casting on that. And Herald of Ice, Herald of Thunder, that's all I needed damage-wise for the entire way of normal through Cruel. So
I mean, it's... Flame Totem right now is like Searing Bond was when they buffed it back in Nemesis Invasion era, except you can 6-link it. So, yeah. It's pretty damn stupid. Searing Bond, you run out of links. Like Flame Totem, you don't.
And Flame Totem's a little easy to use. It doesn't require the sort of manky positioning that Searing Bond does, which was made it a little trickier.
You mean I can't put added fire on my Searing Bond? What is this?
Or Fire Pen. That's my favorite.
Did you put a quality added fire?
I'm sorry, Rise. I know you're here. I'm so sorry.
So, something I want to talk about, a little PSA about minions and totems and SRS, whatever, zombies. The Arctic Tempest, for those people playing hardcore, the Arctic Tempest is the Tempest that does cold type skills. You've probably seen it before, except this one also includes Val Cold Snap and Val Ice Nova. And Val Ice Nova will get you killed if you're playing SRS or minions, totems, because it chains to each thing it hits. So be very, very careful.
Thanks for the PSA. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That chaining Ice Nova.
I've seen a lot of the summoners just insta-dead, so you got to be very careful in that map.
Yeah, somebody put up a GIF on the subreddit. I think it was last night, maybe earlier this morning, that of him getting just completely wrecked by 2 of his SRS being too close to that thing, and it just chained right over to him and poof, gone. I think it was like 2.6k life with capped resist, just gone instantly.
Damn, that's an unforgiving mechanic for any summoner sort of character. And a lot of people have like a golem and stuff out nowadays as well. Golem and a flame totem. So.
Chain is no joke. Like chain on a map, you're like whatever. You know, like I was playing with a golem, and I remembered I was playing a chain map, and that golem will get you screwed because it chains 3 times. It hits you, hits the golem, hits you again, and with that, a lot of So in a chain map, just don't even bother using a golem if you have one out. It's not worth the buff.
Yeah, I'll be keeping that in mind. Thanks for the PSA. It seems though, with the current state of things, that playing someone who's trying to switch into a summoner, I'm like, the more and more I'm looking at it, the more I'm like, all right. So I just started investing all these points into minion nodes so I could make the switch, and this is about the time, maybe even a little later than what I would normally make the switch on this character. 55-ish is what I was planning. I was thinking of switching at 58 when I got like a +2 staff and stuff going. But with the way that I am now, because I'm right at the end of Act 4, I'm thinking that it's probably better just to respec those points into Jewel Totem for a bit, chuck on some Flame Totem action, make my way through Cruel Malachi, and then switch back in Act 1, Merciless, where it's going to be much more enjoyable to play a Summoner.
I'd say that's definitely the wisest decision if your goal is to A, experience, and B, conquer all of the content.
It seems like a lot of people are either doing something like that, not transitioning into their builds and just going dual flame totem or something, or paying for the kill. Though a lot of people were selling Cruel Malachi, but ever since that post on Reddit with the guy getting one shot with 4.6k HP against Cruel Malachi, prices have gone up.
Let me show that. I have the video screen capped right here.
Perfect timing.
Let's show this video. Edit
4.6K
scene.
HP.
Hold on 1 second here.
It's funny how the things that can have an effect on prices.
I mean, come on, it's like, look out, don't get hit by the extremely slow wind-up doohickey with the 2-stage wind-up.
People want to lose their level 80 characters now doing cruel content. So
I'm gonna play it now. Here we go.
Okay, go.
This is the video.
Oh, by the way, in case anyone in chat or you guys don't know, this is Stupid Fat Hobbit. He's a very skilled player, very helpful theory crafter. He's already helped me both in trading and theory crafting with several builds. Also a pretty nice guy.
Just keep watching, everybody.
We get the delay, so we'll see it a bit later than you guys.
I'll wait until you guys see it. I won't even say anything.
Nice anti-spoiler.
Every time I see someone die to one of these Malachi skills, it's like the George of the Jungle theme playing in my head. Watch out for that tree!
I thought it was coming so many times in that fight, like he's right next to that teleport just there. I thought that was gonna be it.
When he goes up, he gets hit by the bomb.
He's got a very, very fast flame dash. Or at least I think that's flame dash. Yeah, it is.
That's pretty nice, that skill.
And rip.
And the fact that you can double spam it, like the way he did to get out of there, it's very nice. I think the
Here
base
it
damage might be a
comes.
bit too high on that guy though, but that.
One shot. So
Oh,
he
that-
died as he was going through the portal too, so it logged him out.
All right, so something I want to talk about with this, like Cruel Malachi does like 4.2k, I think, unmitigated. He's playing a totem spec without any armor, no granite. I don't think he made any excuses for himself, but if it crits, you're gonna die. Now, is it overtuned? It's like the slowest one-shot mechanic in the world. It really is. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know, like, I think maybe if it had, like, something like a Vile Slam, I think is the perfect, like, telegraphed one shot. It's like you don't have an excuse if you get one shot by that. The damage could be anything on Vile Slam, I think, now that we have lockstep in that. Now that we still do have predictive mode for some people, and some people still have to have issues with these things, but something like a Vile Slam, I think, could be a guaranteed one shot, and I don't think it would really be a problem. It's like this big. Now, he teleports, and if he's off screen when he teleports, then, that's kind of your own fault for being too far away and not seeing it. But the fact that it's like a teleport to you is that it's always going to be teleporting to you. So you still have to be like moving, and if you get hit by something else at the same time. So I agree that it's pretty well telegraphed, but I think that maybe there should be like a little bit more of a delay as he's appearing, or it takes him a little longer for him to pop up. So maybe like the glow starts on the ground, starts to appear a little bit beforehand, before it goes off, so you have a little bit more of a tell there.
I mean,
But,
if he disappears, you know it's coming. Like,
Yeah,
it's coming.
you have to be running at that point. Like
Just
when
keep running until he's done.
And there's a very obvious sound tell for it. So yeah, you do have every opportunity, and like I think most of the time you shouldn't ever be getting hit by that. But I do think that it should be telegraphed a little more still though on the tail end of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would actually have to agree with Ziggy on really showcasing that it is going to be a one shot, because if you haven't played before realistically and you've taken slams before, I mean the animation looks pretty crazy after it already happens, but if I mean clearly this is it's meant to one shot you. There's no need to tone the damage down. They want to make sure you're penalized for taking this hit to the face.
Mm-hmm.
As Ziggy said, if they just show like I don't know, maybe a minor outline or something on the floor showing, really promoting the fact of this is going to kill you. Because personally, I'm not a fan of one-shots, but, this is their mechanic. I'm not going to go against it. I just feel it needs to have a little more just visual, something to it, just to, amplify that it's going to kill you if you're standing.
Yeah, it's really obvious what's going to happen when Val's lifting his
Right, yeah,
arm
you
up
can
and it's heaps slow, and you see the weight in it, and it's like that's why I think it's got the perfect telegraphing. So this, he kind of just disappears, and then he appears, and you die. So like. And you know when he's doing it, you should be running at that point, but there's no kind of like little delay as he starts to like. What I'm thinking is like, say you're moving, and then when he teleports to you, there's like a point where you lock on, and then he'll appear. I think there should be a little bit of a delay there, so you have a little more time to move, and you can see maybe where the AOE is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Like the only time I never got slammed the first time playing it because I played it on a ranged character, and I saw it happen. But if I was on a melee character, I might have gotten hit like the first time I ever did the fight because, again, like it doesn't look like it's gonna kill you. I mean, you don't. Again, with Vol, like you see the wind up and everything here. You can tell he's slamming.
He's like shaking and stuff as he's coming up. Like you don't know for sure it's a one shot.
That's
but like you've seen it once. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, in Cruel, it hits for unmitigated. It's over 4,000 damage. I mean, something that is meant to kill you. I feel should really have a threatening essence to like something. This should be more promoting the fact that this is going to kill you. That's all that I do.
Yeah, this kind of like my line of thought here with changing the telegraphing of it, maybe giving it a little bit more of a delay as he appears before the actual explosion happens. That actually comes off the back of me initially first thinking that they should tone the damage down. But then I was thinking that, you know what, maybe the idea is to have like a one-shot mechanic that is very well telegraphed or, has a big telegraph. This is one thing that you have to avoid and that you should be able to avoid every time. I was thinking, maybe I actually like that. Maybe then it's more important instead to make sure that the telegraphing is really, really on point, which I think it's not quite there. So the other option is obviously to tone the damage down, and maybe it would be nice to have like a balance point where someone who's gone to the effort of stacking a ridiculous amount of mitigation in life will survive it. So like I think that would be for Cruel around like the 2.5 rather than the 4.5 damage mark. So that, a lot of people running through Cruel will get one shot by that, but if you have taken the time to overlevel and then you're going to end up with like a couple hundred HP left over, maybe, if you are well set up for it. It could be tuned to that.
I'm totally going to play the unpopular opinion here. I think the one-shot mechanic one-shots me. Like, I actually am happy about this. It's a very mechanical fight. It's a mechanical fight, and you should be punished for getting hit by it. Now, things in the Malika fight that I think need adjustment is the traps, for instance. They blend too much with the beast outside of the heart. They're very, very faint. And if you're colorblind, have fun. I do think that the little fire traps on the ground, they need to be adjusted, be a little bit more visual. But his HP maybe toned down a little bit. His HP is it's just so much. But overall, I like the fact that the fight is one. It challenges you as a player mechanically. Now, there will be bugs. There are bugs. People who die to bugs, I apologize. That sucks. It's really crappy when it happens. But in terms of the difficulty of the fight, I really like the difficulty of the fight. The last boss is hard. Oh, no. I'm really happy about it.
No, I'm with you on this, Cino. I'm totally with you on this. I still think there's some work and tuning to be done on it, though. On the normal Malachi fight, on the topic of the normal Malachi fight, I felt like it was perfectly tuned for me, a reasonably experienced player. But I think it probably is pretty prohibitive of a new player to get into Crawl, which, I don't know, is I don't know how I feel about that. Whether it's a good or a bad thing, whether a new player should be able to get into Cruel with most builds, and then the wall should be somewhere in Cruel, or whether the wall should be getting into Cruel if they don't have a good build or good mechanics.
Do you recall
I'm not sure where the wall should be. I was 1 or 2 levels under the zone when I did normal.
Hooray for totems, I guess. Holy shit. Because
I was mostly doing Firestorm for that fight.
Oh, interesting.
That was mostly what I was using.
Most people that I've talked to that weren't like in give me that laptop mode, they leveled to around like 46 or 47 before attempting normal Malachi, and that
I might have been at the zone level. I can't remember. I have a video on YouTube. I could double check later, but I was around the level.
the zone level is only 40, believe it or not, of normal harvest. But of course, Malachi himself is level 44. But I myself and my friends, we all leveled to like 46-ish, and it still felt pretty ridiculous every time you got, especially if you get like double chunked when he does the slug throw. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, there are sometimes like where an RNG, like I think the slug throw does need to be tuned a little bit. I will agree with that.
Yeah.
His loot is awful. Like you spend 20 minutes of your life fighting that, he should drop all rares. Screw the blues, screw the whites.
Okay, there's 2 good points there. So I mentioned that Rory said they're probably going to be looking at the slug toss, because I do think that one is one that can't be like when he throws out multiples of them. I think the fact that it does a pretty good chunk of damage on one hit. And then there's a degen, so you need to be booking it just after you get hit by that. And, it's probably going to stun you if it hits you for a good chunk of damage. I think that's enough, but getting hit by multiples of them and I did outright get one shot by that when I was testing it in the beta. I do think the slug toss is a bit BSy. And then the topic of the loot, I was wondering about this. Like, would it be a big deal if they just made the loot really good for like normal and cruel Malachi? It's like you're not really going to farm that.
Yeah.
Late game.
You're not at all.
As a Magic Find character.
Even Merciless, you have to kill the 3 bosses before him, which are rippy. So, I mean, like, farming him is going to be tough.
And just to have, like, a really nice feeling reward. Like it drops what we're used to as the typical boss loot, which only ever looks good when you're stacking a bunch of Magic Find. That's the only time it ever looks good. You get, like, maybe, a couple rares at the moment with the regular boss loot. Would it be a big deal if it dropped a big chunk of stuff? Like, obviously you can go too overboard and then it trivializes the rest of the content, but Act 1 is already like face roll compared to Act 4 anyway, so it's not gonna make much difference. you get a nice rewarding feeling.
Have you guys considered the possibility that your loot filters are factoring into this, and you're not holding alt after killing Malachi?
I pressed alt afterward, and it was blue, 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 white, 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 and then it was like a stun quiver, and I was like, thanks.
Yeah. So we're not talking about the actual size of the loot table.
No, he drops a lot.
Rarity.
The rarity, right? Okay. He drops a lot. Like Rise actually makes a good point here in chat. I hate to give a shout out to the game.
No, it's true. It's true.
First time killing a boss, make it give you better loot.
Yeah, it would be
just
cool.
like Diablo 3.
It's a good system because again, as Ziggy was saying, and back to what we're all saying, you want to feel rewarded. Especially as a new player, like if it's like your first or second time playing the game, you've done some research, you're struggling for your resistance in normal. And then you kill the final boss. You get to the next difficulty. Your resistances drop even more. It would be super cool to get like resist gear or something, just something random that could potentially be an upgrade for you from your current gear entering the new difficulty. Because I mean, again, you just went through I would say your first time playing the game, you're probably gonna have anywhere from a minimum, I would say like a 5 minute to maybe 10-15 minute Malachi fight, and then you do it and you get like 1 rare, and then the game now gets harder. Well, thank you.
Yeah. You just spend 20 minutes of your life for a stun quiver.
And again, I always try to look, because I have a lot of new friends that play the game, but I always try to find it look in the perspective as a newer player. Oftentimes it's hard for us to see that perspective if we've been playing the game for like 3 or 4 years. But
yeah, the loot hasn't really bothered me much because I guess I'm kind of used to it. But every time I do that fight on stream, everyone in chat's like,
exactly.
You just did that 20-minute epic fight, and then that like it should. I think it's okay for like the final boss that is tuned to be so difficult and is such a long and grueling fight. It would just be like, whoa, man, look at that loot explosion. I mean, fuck, man, if they have to go the guaranteed unique from Diablo 3, then
God,
I mean,
please, no.
it feels rewarding in Diablo 3, but like at least a bonus the first time you kill the bosses is not a bad idea.
Yep.
That's a good point, Xena.
In regards to the fight, that was actually Rise's point. I just piggybacked off what he said.
Nice job, Rise.
In regards to the Malachi fight, though, there are some things they needed to work on. It's obvious that it hasn't been tuned to where it needs to be, but anyone who cries about being one-shot by the one-shot move, I'm just like, the fire truck is red, the sky is blue. I got one-shot by the one-shot move. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me, crying about the obvious. I mean, it could be a little bit more, displayed. If it bugs and one-shots you, I can sympathize. That's unfortunate, losing your character when you couldn't even see it happen. And in regards to computers without the best graphics cards or, just good computers in general, it's really demanding on your computer. And that, they did spend a lot of money on the game. Or this act, they spent a lot of money on, that entire boss fight. You could tell it's just really, really hard on your computer. I don't know. I'm up in the air on this one. What do you guys think? You think it's too much Like when you kill the heart and there's blood everywhere, do you think it's just too much?
I mean, when you... Oh, you mean like, yeah, maybe during the fight, because if it's tanking people's FPS, the blood spray from killing the little sections of the heart, then yeah, maybe they could tone that down or something to help people with FPS issues in the fight. But I like after the fight that like there's blood spraying everywhere and stuff. That's what I wanted. I wanted like the heart to explode when you're standing. Like you need to like jump into the next difficulty to get off the exploding heart. I want that shit when I kill the boss. It still feels a little. They made it a little better from beta, but it still feels a little anticlimactic when you kill him. But I think they said they're working on that.
There's so much red. It's like the elevator scene from The Shining. Like, I feel for anyone who's red-green colorblind because it's just like gray everywhere. Gray. Like, isn't Project PT colorblind? Like that must be a pain in the ass to try and actually see what's going on in there.
Yeah,
there's red-brown floor. There's a pool of red around you. There's the red hearts that spurt red stuff, and the red slugs, and the red zombies, the red guy that turns red.
It's pretty sick. I kind of like it, but yeah, there's not much distinguishing between some of those tones, is there?
Yeah,
it's
especially
the
DJing hands and stuff on the ground, and stuff like that. I'd see a lot of people having issues with that.
I do think there should be an option, like colorblind mode, LOL, you know. That's kind of funny. Now we're in Whimsy Shire when everything's blue. I mean, come on. But in regards to there should be an option just turn off, like when you kill the heart, all that red crap everywhere. If they can make something in the options, but that would probably cost them a lot of money and time to implement that. You know, it is pretty unfortunate to people with lackluster computers. Last thing I want to talk about the Malachi fight, which we kind of totally went out of order. The size of the room in Phase 2 has caused a lot of QQ, but I'm going to go ahead and say this. I like the fact that it's small. It makes it more chaotic and hectic. I like that feel like when you fight the final boss, you should be scared. You should be like focusing. It's the final boss. I really like that.
I do too, Zeno. I like the claustrophobic, intense feeling of the fight. Chris Wilson himself did mention that something that they might change, though, is the size of the room. So for those of you guys who are hoping for that change, then it is something they're considering. But yeah, I agree. I like it too. There's one thing to be said to play Devil's Advocate or to play Energy Shield User's Advocate. The size of the room could be quite a balancing concern or quite punishing to Energy Shield-based characters, given that there's not really much space to regen in a fight like that. It's as we've said, you know, it's like flask management and life regen and stuff are some of the most important things in that. Like I think Noogie did a video where he talked about like Enduring Cry's life regen being very helpful in that fight and having a bit of life regen and stuff like that. And yeah, unfortunately, AS characters don't quite get that. So I could see the size of the room being especially an issue for them, but I do like it. You know, when I'm playing a life-based character, I like the size of the room.
Yep. HP definitely needs to be tuned. I think everybody can agree across the board. It's just so much. It's so much HP. I
haven't played it in a party yet, though. Have you guys done it in a larger party with that size room?
I did them with 3-player HP when I went back at level 70 to help, you know, just a bunch of my viewers. I killed Uncruel because they just couldn't do it. And it took forever. It took forever. And when we killed them, we got 3 rares. And I was like, cool.
I'm curious, how does this slam work with multiple people? Because like if you don't pay attention for like a second or 2 seconds or something, and he ports to another guy and you're running in a circle,
you're done.
That's what I was talking about. Exactly.
He teleported my golem. He teleported my golem, and I was like, okay, don't run over there.
Because I mean, you have to take this an example in maps as well. As a guy who I generally like doing map bosses. I think it's enjoyable. Doing him in a map. Just say it has turbo because your map rolled turbo. And I know that might sound like a silly idea, but given with, you know, not so given proper animations of everything, if it's sped up, like how, I don't know. I just really think, again, going back to the one shot, there should just be a little bit more color or something to it. Because again, in a party, if you're not focusing on him the entire time because you're about to die, or you know, you hit a pot, some people can't focus 2 things at once. They look at their HP bar all the way at the bottom. And then he pops up at your friend where you're running into. You have to run around. There's like a trap near you, so you have to run around it.
Here, Pox, play Devil's Advocate. How about twinned Malachi?
I mean, again, if you can see the animations properly and everything, I don't really think it would be too much of an issue.
2 Malachis with Onslaught?
I mean, you just play
Bro,
summoner.
I got one shot by them when they both teleported and exploded on me at the exact same time.
At the same
That's
time?
not fair.
I got one shot.
I got one shot by two of them teleporting me.
I don't know, Zeno, doing it in party play, like in the moment, when we were all of relevant level with decently appropriate gear for the level and everything. It was sketchy, but it was still manageable. It's just it's really getting shotgunned by those slugs. I feel like that would, if they remove that shotgun mechanic, I hate for continuing to go back to this, but I feel like it would remove the need for players to be like level 45-ish in the Maokai fight in normal, or like level 63-ish in the Maokai fight in Cruel.
Because that's the one that's going to hit you occasionally. Like, you should avoid the teleport every time, especially if they do improve the telegraphing a bit. The slug toss is going to hit you, though. You're going to get hit by the slug toss occasionally.
I just keep up my granite during that, because usually the zombies will refill my granite enough, with charge recovery on it, and I just keep my granite up when I was playing. Like, I just played a Stormcall character, dual wield, no problem. I had like 1900 HP because I had some gear for my last character, level 40, and I just kept my granite up the entire time I was at ranged, and no problem. But the slug toss does need a nerf, because you should not like a new player walking into there is going to hate their life. They're gonna hate their life.
I did the fight in beta because I was over leveled because I was trying to gear up. I was 67 in Cruel, not noticing how high level I was, and
67.
I was trying to find a Haku
67, cool.
because it took me 7 levels to find a
Maybe
Haku.
57.
Were you farming a
No,
Tabula in Aqueduct? Is that what's
no,
going
no,
on?
67. I was
67?
this was on my wander. I didn't intentionally want to do it, but this is when he first got released, and like no one did him in Cruel and Hardcore yet. And I wasn't farming for him. I was farming to craft a resist on my gloves. You guys know how it is self-found. If something doesn't drop, you can't do anything. You can't progress. You're gonna do comb with 40% fire res. So basically, I was 67 in Cruel as an acrobatics character, which I'm not gonna use a granite flask for. And there was times when like he threw his spray, and if I like legit didn't portal out, I would have just died on an acrobatics character. It just wouldn't have happened, because like one slug was hitting me for like 70% of my life, even at level 67 with like 2.4k, 2.5k life. It was
After you
pretty
killed
crazy.
Maokai, did you automatically just teleport into maps? Was the game
It
like,
did, yeah. I
you're
skipped
high enough
normal,
level, you can just skip
But
the rest of the
they said
content?
because you kind of cheaped out on it, they didn't give me the skill points for Act 1 or Act 2. So I
I'm
was
just
kinda upset.
saying,
Nah, that's
I like during the
unfortunate.
1-1 race, you enter a level 66 map at 59, but you'll enter Cruel Maokai at 67.
True.
That logic.
I wanted fire res. I think I was like the second or third person to make
I
it
mean,
because he was
it's
just
kind
so
of
mad.
It's kind of not that really far what it's off. I feel like I could see myself going to 67 to try and make it safe. But now that I've seen that, if you're gonna get one, there's no point preparing a character for the one shot. So the teleport. So I'm like, all right, we're just gonna have to go through as long as we're okay with everything else.
I'm gonna say,
Whereas
man,
before I was trying to prepare.
try to
but,
play a self-found wander and kill Maokai and Cruel, because it was not fun. That took me
Fair enough.
17 minutes.
Let's talk. We just spent the past 40 minutes talking about Maokai. I just want to bring that up to you guys. So
Well,
That's good.
all right, let's make a short list of the Maokai things.
Yeah, let's summarize it. We'll summarize it.
We'll do the summary. I'll attempt to sum up for what I think is the group consensus here is the slug toss needs a bit of a nerf, either damage or to not shotgun. Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
no,
Agreed.
life can be adjusted, and the colorblind people for traps.
Yeah, colors.
Loot.
The life probably be reduced a little bit, and I think the telegraphing on the teleport could be a little better.
But
Is that the short list?
don't complain if you get hit by the one shot and it one shot you. I mean,
I'm okay
just-
with the one shot mechanic.
Just a
Full
heads up
telegraph.
to anybody trying to like figure out how to circumvent this teleport slam a little bit better. He makes it sound like he's squeezing one off every single time he does a teleport slam.
turn your sound up. That's what I do.
Time.
The entire game, I don't turn on my music. And music, I mean, I have my music on the whole time I'm playing the game while I'm streaming. Maokai, turn it off, put on sound effects. Problem solved. Listen. But anyways, let's move on here. New skills. So, anyone here playing any of the new skills other than Ice Crash?
I'm using Flame Dash. We could start there.
Go ahead, kick it off.
So Flame Dash is a teleporting skill, and it does teleport, so it teleports you over, or I guess through walls and over gaps and stuff like that.
Through walls.
Some walls, yes, some walls, like the small walls that you can usually lightning warp or leap slam over, and it leaves a fire trail on the ground and does a bit of fire damage if you kind of. I think if you pass through mobs, it might only be at the end. I'm not 100% sure how the fire hit works, but it's got 3 charges. It's got it's kind of out of the can better than lightning warp since it is the other option for casters now. You can chuck a faster casting on it. It makes it a little more responsive because it's got a little bit of a cast time before you teleport. But the teleport itself is instant, whereas you need like reduced duration to get close to being like that with lightning warp. So lightning warp is better for like traversing long distances when you have like fast casting, reduced duration. But this thing is a little more zippy, and it's kind of not quite as zippy as Whirling Blades for dodging stuff. But it's a bit shorter ranged. But it's good for getting out of the way of attacks and stuff when you do have a bit of cast speed. I'm quite liking it as a mobility skill.
The only thing I've noticed when I messed around with it on my current character is when you name target, there's only like a little tiny bit of fire ground, and it's like really buggy. Like it doesn't actually dash; it just like gives you a little zip if you like name target to something right in front of you. It doesn't like dash through them, so you have to like shift click and put your. It's ground targeted. Think of it like that. When you're playing like Pierce
you want
Poison
to
Arrow.
force stand still, flame dash when you're using it. Otherwise, your character's going to do some like manky run and for a bit and then use it. So, well, I think whenever you're using any mobility skill, you should be force stand still using.
True.
I think it's
I like
safe
this
practice.
Yeah, when I was leveling with Magma Orb for a bit, and I had Flame Dash 3-linked, because that's just what dropped, and I used added Cold and added Lightning, and it was, if I crit a rare, like a weak rare, it would actually one-shot it. With the Ignite would just go through and kill it. So, it was a lot of fun, just Flame Dashing through, and then casting, and then keeping them on the burning ground. The only issue I had personally is I feel, I don't want this to change, this is probably just a personal issue, is I'm used to Lightning Warp, or even like Whirling Blades and other stuff, where you can hold the cursor far away, and it'll start going towards, even if Whirling Blades can't reach that destination, it'll still work. For me, Flame Dash, like, it just wouldn't go. When I tried to cast it far away, my character would just sit there.
Is that when you're using force stand still? Because I don't really have that problem.
I might have had force stand still, but my character just would not move. He would just sit there and look at me, and I'm just like, wow.
That's a skill.
It's cool.
But it's cool. I like it. Actually, it's a utility skill that actually does damage early game. Because when you have lightning warp and stuff early game, you don't have the ability to just travel across the screen. You just use it like Act 2. When you're running left and there's like the broken, the pebbles and stuff. You just lightning warp over. But this skill you can actually use to do damage, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, with no supporting or no scaling, it's actually not a negligible amount of damage. Like I would flame dash through a pack and then chuck a firestorm, and then the flame dash will take him like halfway. Finest little will finish him off. So sometimes it would outright kill packs. So
I threw a fire trap dash through them, and then they stacked together, so they just melted together. The 2 burning grounds.
The two burning grounds stack?
I'm pretty sure they do. Well, at least maybe I just had a lot of damage. I don't know. I feel like they overlapped. I don't know. Maybe they don't.
I think you were
It
just
seems to
getting
do
the best of
comparable
both
damage
worlds.
to a fire trap.
Yeah.
Alright,
It's
so
really
I'm-
good for flame surgers too. So.
I'm gonna be that guy and channel my inner Asadram right now and ask you, do you think that anybody can make a build with this as their primary damage skill?
No.
AoE on
charges.
Prolif is too shitty.
It's the charges. The charge limitation.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, unless you can... What's the cooldown on the charges? Is it 3 seconds or 2 seconds?
3 seconds.
Well, you can bypass it with power charges, can't you? So
I didn't know about
theoretically,
that.
you could make a build out of it mechanically.
There you go, then.
You
I
could
did not
do
know you could bypass it.
Ramiro's, or you could do power charge on crit, or you could do any other of options of generating power charges as you use them. But the only way I foresee you being able to clear with it would be to use Prolif, and I don't know if the actual hit damage is enough to make a Prolif build with. Not
It's
sure
higher
how
base
to the
damage
number
than
on
a
it.
fire trap, believe it or not.
The actual explosion of a fire trap
Yeah,
is fire base damage.
The
Oh,
actual,
shit, probably
the
could
actual
then. Yeah.
upfront.
Oh, you can do Prolif fire trap. Yeah, shit, you totally could then.
Yeah, it
if it's
doesn't
either fire
bypass
trap.
charges. Let's talk about
Oh,
frost
you
blades.
can't bypass charges. I thought it was power charges bypass charges. Oh,
No, I think they just have
my bad.
one of
Sorry.
each.
Okay. Yeah, no, I thought they gave it a bypass mechanic. My bad. Sorry, guys. I don't know where I pulled that from. I guess out of my ass.
All right, so let's talk about frost blades. It was a bugged on release where you couldn't shift click. It was really, really clunky when I first messed with it, and then I gave it a go again, and I still feel like it needs a lot to be good. Because the biggest problem I have with frost blades is you have to hit a target for the blades to pop out. That's how the mechanic works. So you take a melee weapon. It has increased weapon range, so it scales with weapon range. If you have a 2-handed axe or a foil, you have the highest. You can use things like Master of Arena and Duelist Tree to get more range. And then when you strike a target, 3 blades will pop out. You can use LMP, you can use GMP, you can use Chain, Pierce, any of those projectile nodes. And it'll be good. But because you have to hit the initial target, it always feels like the target in front will take the least amount of damage, and then you hope for the best that you hit the targets behind it. What are you guys' opinions about Frostblades right now, if you've even messed around with it? Ziggy?
So I did play around a little bit when the targeting was bugged, but I understand the idea behind the targeting, and I mean, I'm glad they went that route when we were first talking about the mechanics of it, theory crafting about it. The idea that it was like an ethereal knives that started at the front of a pack sounded so bad. But the fact that the way it works, the way Rory explained to me, is that it has a 180-degree sort of area. So on the other side of a mob when you hit them. So as long as you're targeting a mob at the front of the pack, then the projectiles should all hit mobs behind that. So since they are targeted on them. It feels like a mid-tier skill to me, just in mechanics, honestly. And it's a little awkward to use, but that was only just from like kind of looking at the mechanics of it and thinking about it and stuff like that. Not too much actual testing, so I'd take that with a massive mountain of salt. Sand. What? It is salt. That's the one. I've had a few people saying to me that once you get some of the projectile modifications happening on it, it starts to feel a little bit better. So it might be okay, but it's a targeted skill, so it's always going to be a little manky and awkward to use.
As someone who loves Static Strike, I don't see a problem with that. But
if you love Static Strike, then you'll probably enjoy it. More power to you. If you can enjoy skills like that, we have to directly click on mobs.
But yeah, I can understand why it's considered clunky, because say Ground Slam, Ice Crash, there's so many other skills that don't require that.
I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me this if you've tested it or not. But I don't know if chat was trolling me, but I've heard from a few people that you can melee splash procs it multiple times. Procs the blade proc multiple times. So if you hit a melee splash in like the front of a pack and it hits a few of the mobs and it's going to send out a bunch of blades.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Were they trolling me? Were they trolling me? I was getting trolled.
That's not intended.
Because that would be very powerful.
Static Strike doesn't do it. Wild Strike doesn't do it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work that way.
Melee projectile splash. Yes, please.
Well, it is actually a melee hit. That's just like, I guess, like in theory it could work, except generally speaking, procs don't occur multiple times when you melee splash. So
Agreed.
It sounds like I was pretty sure I'd been trolled, but I guess I'd throw that out. That would be very strong if that was the case.
The only thing I have to say on it, because I didn't really play around much with it, but when it first got released and the targeting was kind of poo-poo, I was using a rare two-handed sword, and I was using it, and I was like, well, and I put in Freeze Pulse with a two-handed sword, and I said, yep, I'm going to stick with Freeze Pulse. So, I mean, that was just the early game, and, as we all know, at least in my opinion, skills and spells especially, both of them are not very fun until you get attack speed and casting speed going, so you want just the best experience you can, and it just did not feel very good at its current level.
I feel like Spectral Throw is better, so
I don't know, but I haven't seen it end game, and that's kind of what matters, not the first 5 to 10 levels of the game. So
it's a cool kind of looking skill, and it's got a kind of cool theme and stuff too. I'm sure some people will enjoy it that can handle that sort of targeting. But yeah, I can't see it being super popular.
Well, if you think about something like Lightning Strike, it does lower damage at Frostblades, the projectile as well, because of the less modifier on the gem. It's it travels on the ground, which is an issue, but I'm sure they'll fix that with time. They fix Glacial Cascade, they can do Lightning Strike. Lightning Strike, you just slam the ground, you hold shift, things pop out. Frostblades, you actually have to hit a target for blades to pop out, so it's an accuracy problem or you need RT. So if you miss, if you're playing a crit build and you only have 92% accuracy, you swing, you miss, it's like, cool, where's the Frostblades? Non-existent. All right.
Yeah.
It just feels super awkward to play, yeah.
To clarify, to go off topic, Ziggy, I think it was Frostwall you were thinking of with the power charges, because they just did that for Frostwall.
Someone in chat said it was also not Frenzy. Frenzy charges for Phase Run. Yeah, maybe I got confused with those.
Yeah, because the 2 new ones came out, so that's why. Vice versa.
Let's go to the next one, Wild Strike. Has anyone messed with Wild Strike? I've heard a lot of opinions on it and how it works.
I did play around with Wild Strike a bit. Initially, I was super dance game about it because Like it's got a 33% proc of 3 different effects, right? One is a basically freeze pulse. It's a cold projectile. One is a fire AOE. It's kind of like I guess a wider version of flame surge or something. And one is basically arc. So we have a chaining skill that is non-projectile. We have a projectile skill that can't chain because it's got guaranteed pierce, and we have an AOE. So if you try to scale any of those, you're getting 1/3 effectiveness of any of your scaling. So the skill, it is impossible to efficiently scale the area effectiveness of the skill. That said, so that was why I was like, this skill is rubbish, and this is going to be terrible. But then actually, I played around for it a bit, and then I kind of looked at the way the different procs work, and they actually cover each other's weaknesses pretty well. And if you, I think, have very fast attack speed with this skill, it's gonna be okay. I don't think it's like maybe equivalent to like a, like a dual strike melee splash, which is not great. Maybe the numbers will be a little better, not sure, but the AoE maybe a little bit better than that. You get like long range but narrow. You get a wider but short range, and then you get an arc that hits the kind of mobs that are spread out. So if you're attacking quickly and getting those procs off quickly, it's going to actually do okay, I think.
How would you consider it for a single target?
How would I consider it for single target? Well, I guess since you're not really putting anything on it that's going to lower the damage, like you're not going to put AoE on it, you're not going to put LMP on it or anything like that, then I would say it probably would stay pretty decent for single target while having a built-in AoE. So it seems like a pretty versatile skill.
Yep. It seems kind of like how Static Strike works, where you hit the target secondary, Static Strike has a delay secondary effect, never mind. Wild Strike just seems like an all-around fun, balanced skill. Maybe it doesn't have the AoE other skills do. It's more of a frontal cone kind of AoE.
Yeah. It's got decent AoE, and you just can't really ever improve it. Like, you can just kind of mitigate its RNG a bit with attack speed. Right. So I think it's very, very cool and flashy. I love the feeling and the look of it. If you like the idea of playing like a battle mage or something, then this will be right up your alley. It's a cool skill.
As experienced players, how does Equilibrium strike you? For this skill?
Bad because
if
it's
you
not
use an aura. There goes the EE.
True.
Yeah, well, firstly, you can't use auras. Now, in theory, maybe EE could counteract the loss of an aura, but a lot of the time, what you're going to do is, like, Arc's going to bounce around and hit the same targets, and then it's going to hit the same targets again that haven't been hit by the other things. And then, the same thing's going to happen with the freeze pulse, and there's always going to be mobs that are going to be getting the negative effect of the EE, and sometimes, I think you can proc the same thing multiple times, too. So, it's not changing each time.
The mana cost is quite high, and it's a conversion. It's a 60% conversion, so good luck with Mana Leech, especially with the Leech changes. However, because the secondary effect is considered an attack, and you AoE, if you're using Mana Gain on hit, it's sustainable, maybe, but Blood Magic seems like the easy cop-out early on.
Spirit Void for the win!
Yeah.
Or,
Spirit Void, Revelry, go ham kind of thing.
Or run a Mana Flask and get all the deeps.
Yes, I like that idea.
I love Mana Flask.
Yes.
Mana Flask are
Bring
great.
it back.
We are best friends.
I have an ample Mana Flask, and it's a 5-charge flask, and I'm like, well...
4 of 20 charges?
5 of 20, or 4 of 20, or something like that.
5 of 20.
Maybe it's 4 of 20, and I have ample, and it's just like, well, I could just use this forever now. Good to go.
Since I think attack speed is a good way to scale it, Mana on hit's a very good solution, I think.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Does I wonder does it's definitely an arc, but I guess that counts as an attack still though, like the arc.
Yep,
because that'll
they're
work
not
pretty
spells,
nicely
they're
with
attacks.
Mana Gain hit.
It's weird because your arc...
Mana Gain hit work excellent with it then.
Yep.
Here I called it an arc tack.
It's an arc tack. It's weird because like I was watching someone do it and they had like Herald of Ash on. They had Herald of Ash on and the arc was burning and I was like, what the hell? So like... It makes sense. So it's an attack. It's not the spell isn't applying to Herald of Ash.
I think that gets more chains as it levels too. So that's what I heard of someone. So that'll be very nice for Mana Gain on hit. Then that's going to proc 33% of the time, and that's going to give you a bunch of mana back whenever it procs. So I think it seems pretty supportable.
The last one we got to talk about here is Magma Orb, which seems. Magma Orb, the way how it works is you fire a fiery ball, it hits a ground area, does an AoE, bounces to another area, does another ground splash. It's got some kind of like auto aim where if it's the two targets are hitting in a straight line, it kind of hits it. Like well, not really auto aim. The way how you want to use it is you want to like line things up to be hit in a straight line. Slower projectile seems to be a popular skill with it, so that you can efficiently hit things better. And then Conk Effect, I've heard mixed opinions about it.
All right, Zeno, I'm going to cut you off here, man. You don't understand how the skill works.
Okay, all right,
Sorry,
fair
bro.
enough, fair enough.
I did a very, very detailed analysis of the mechanics of the skill and talked to Rory about the skill's design in great detail. Slow projectiles does not affect... Projectile speed doesn't change the skill at all.
Really?
But slow projectiles is just used for its damage boost because it doesn't have any other effect on it.
No. Okay.
The bounce distance is scaled based on AoE. There's two AoEs of the skill. There's the AoE of the... Well, the way the bounce is calculated is there's the AoE of the hit, and then the bounce is calculated by one AoE from the center. So the center point of one AoE to the center point of another AoE is the same width as one of the AoEs, and then plus 3 units, which is the width of the player. So in PvP, it should be impossible to shotgun with it to overlap the AoEs, but most targets that you fight against are bigger than 3 units wide. So you can shotgun most targets with it, especially bosses. And I think that covers the kind of the mechanics at least, so that people know how it works.
Well, my bad. I thought it did scale. Like when I was reading up on the skill and messing around with it, I never actually linked with Solar Proj, so I was wrong. I deserve that. Fair
I
enough.
like it. I like it when it's like when you're close to a wall and you get like the double boom boom.
Yeah, walls can have an impact on the. It can make the bounces closer together, depending on where you aim with the wall.
What level do you get? I'm just curious here. What level do you get Firestorm at from questing? Is it early on or is
12.
it like
12 Mavale.
Yeah.
Okay, well, never mind. Screw that then. I was gonna say it's a cool skill that's not Fire Trap early on, since Fire Trap's a green. It's a blue. This is a blue gem. I had fun leveling with it because I rolled like a +1 scepter, and I had no problem. I was just Flame Dash, Magma Orb, and everything was no problem. But I guess people are just gonna say, why not use Firestorm now? But I mean, it wasn't bad at all. I thought I had pretty decent success just leveling. I don't know how it would be endgame at all. Just the mechanics of it seem really... My biggest issue is the mechanics for single target, because, I mean, I guess you could try putting up a frost wall to get the second explosion. Would that work on a boss?
It doesn't interact with
should.
frost
It
wall
won't
because
work?
the projectile doesn't actually hit anything. It's
just
not
bounces
Frostwall
right
isn't
through?
actually, despite the name, Frostwall isn't actually a wall. What it is, it's a line of stationary mobs. So
You could have
only
fooled me because
projectiles
I've been
that actually
PK'd
hit
plenty
things.
of times by a frost wall before. Both at Siri, maps, you name it.
Well, it's like a mob in the sense that you can't walk through it unless you're using like a skill that can path through mobs. If you use a quartz flask, you can move through it, and only projectiles that hit mobs will hit a frost wall and interact with it. Whereas the projectile doesn't actually ever hit anything. It's only a projectile for the purpose of projectile damage scaling and less multiple projectiles and greater multiple projectiles. So Frostwall doesn't work at all. But single target with it, I think, is actually really good. It's a pretty... I would say that whereas Cascade has like a guaranteed double hit and the damage is balanced around that for single targets, and everyone knows Cascade's a pretty decent single target, this is potentially a better single target if you have good aim and positioning, because you can guarantee a shotgunning effect. And I think...
AoE overlap.
I won't go with the Edgemaster theory I had. I'll save that for another day. But just with the regular skill with the 2 bounces, it's very easy to hit a boss, because bosses are like 6+ units, maybe even wider, and the gap in between them, the dead zone, is 3 units. So it's very easy to hit the projectile just before the mob and then again after the mob, and it's very, very good single target when you are in that correct positioning. It's only difficult if like the boss is melee and it stays on top of you. You can't really shotgun then.
Well, speaking of Edgemaster, I believe Glacier Cascade can actually hit up to 4 times depending on how small you shrink it.
Guaranteed
Wow.
of 2. but
Guaranteed
yes,
2, you
can.
are right. Guaranteed
Yeah.
2.
3 with Conk for sure.
So
So I guess
But that was
my
nice,
overall
actually.
thoughts on... go ahead, Box.
I was gonna say that was nice to know, though, that you were saying you can actually get your own double hit without actually needing an actual wall
Yeah,
or
it
something.
doesn't matter on your AoE, regardless of your AoE scaling. It's actually a bit easier if against large targets if you use Conk Effect to shotgun, but you can do it with any AoE, basically. I guess maybe if you had a huge AoE, then it might... No, you're always going to hit a boss. You're always going to shotgun with boss, but it's a little easier to aim if you have Conk Effect because the bounces are closer together.
And then last question really
Go
fast on this is, what if it's melee? Because there's a lot of hasted mobs that will get right in your face. Can you still hit?
Yeah, it feels awkward. It feels awkward for melee.
All right.
I think so. My overall analysis of the skill is that I really like the mechanical design of it. I think it's really well balanced and has a lot of options in terms of support gems. You can scale with AoE or you can scale with LMP. LMP isn't mandatory because LMP and GMP don't shotgun. It's only the bounces that can overlap. And then I I think that it's rewarding when you if you play well with it. If you have good positioning and good aim, it can theoretically be better than Cascade. The AOE scales better, and you can get better single target. The problem is that in practice, it's difficult to use and it's awkward, and you occasionally leave mobs because of the dead zones. So I don't see it being a popular skill just because it's awkward to use. Another awkward to use skill, unfortunately. But it's I like the design of it.
I feel like if you're trying to be really optimal with getting up there through the progression as quickly as possible, given what classes usually will grab Magma Orb and how they'll spec their tree, it really begs the question: why not Flame Totem?
Flame Totem is actually getting removed after this podcast.
Why are we even talking about that skill?
Because it's freaking amazing, that's why.
So if I learn anything, after this, I'm going to go use my projectile speed Magma Orb, and Ziggy's going to use his power charge Flame Dash, and we're going to make a build together.
So, State of Exile builds.
Project PT has definitely had his effect on this podcast.
There is one more skill before you shuffle us on to the next topic. Phase Run. How can you forget about the return of Phase Run, mate?
Yes.
I haven't touched it. I saw Cha using it with preaching his 8-second one, and Ziggy, I saw you using it last night too. What do you got on it, Cha?
Okay, so Peregrine plus Foxshade plus a pair of 30% move speed boots. You do anything you can to get frenzy charges. I don't care. How about some life regen and blood rage for simplicity? You pop that thing, even without increased duration, no duration nodes. You're gonna get about a 6.5 second phase run, and you will boogie.
Boogie?
I can
for a boogie?
I can run through about 80% of the Aqueduct zone on a single phase run. Go up to the first couple of packs, turn on my blood rage, pop the shit and just. Boom.
I'm just thinking, but that might have been an exaggeration. Was it? Was that an exaggeration?
What, 80% of the Aqueducts?
Aqueducts.
I got past Big Bird. I got past Big Bird.
Start.
Yeah, from the start. I ran, across the bridge up to the eastern side of the Aqueducts, kill a couple of packs, get myself 3 charges, then pop it and boom. Granted, I had a Quicksilver Flask and move speed this, move speed that, and move speed the other. Probably shouldn't be wearing a Peregrine and a Foxshade if you're trying to run this stuff. But that's beside the point. I wanted to go fast.
Go fast.
Okay, all right, I'll believe you.
Can it be used with cast when damage taken? That's what I want to know.
Yes,
phase run,
yeah,
yeah,
and I like it. I like it.
Wow.
It gives you speed boost. Pathing through mobs is the nicest part, and I don't know how the mob vision interacts with mobs around you, but it might stop mobs a little bit further away from you from triggering if you're in an issue. So theoretically, if you get hit by it, say you got on a highish level cast on damage taken, it goes off, you get the move speed boost. I just use it on a low one. I was using it for a little while, and you get the occasional move speed boost and get to path through mobs. And then if you're booking it because you're taking a lot of damage, then mobs that you run into as you're booking it are not going to notice you. So it's pretty nifty as a cast damage taken.
So you got Molten Armor for more Molten Shell for freaking armor builds, and then you can throw in Phase Run with increased duration for both.
Yeah, you totally could.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't have any issues for you with consuming your frenzy charges, that doesn't have any negative effects on your build, then yeah, you totally could. And as if you're playing melee character, it's going to give you the occasional damage boost on top of that.
Someone brought up a really good point, actually, that I'd like to say. It's really good for Haku missions since everything likes to revive itself. You can just weave right through. I think that's actually really cool.
You drop the spirit as soon as
do you drop the spirit when you use it? I thought you would because it's a movement skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you use it and then pick it up since it's
You probably could.
Yeah, you could.
All right, boys, min max, let's go.
So that works.
Increase duration notes.
Pop it, grab him, and then go again.
I mean, Shaw, if you can run, 80% of aqueducts, I think you can
the
run
whole freaking zone.
I
Dude.
think you can run 100% of a Haku mission on one
you could get your
run.
charges up, kill the boss, grab the spirit, or chuck your phase run, grab the spirit, and get out of there while it's up.
We're gonna have phase run races is the new
And
gorge
min
race.
maxes.
How far can you get in one phase run?
So they did nerf it from beta. What they end up nerfing about it? The base duration per frenzy charge and the cooldown is now 4 seconds opposed to 3. And I think the duration was reduced as well from beta.
No, you could have ran 100% of the zone, Shaw. Jeez.
Rip.
Oh, wait, allow me to abridge my previous statement. Bear in mind that with an 6.5 second phase run, that's long enough that the phase run cooldown is refreshed by the time you're done with your first phase run. So you get 2, essentially.
How long is the cooldown?
4 seconds.
4 seconds? Yeah. So I currently have Phase Run with increased duration and the Frenzy charges, but sadly I dropped a couple of my move speed items, so sad.
Have you been just using it to? Because I thought it would be a pretty nice skill with Ice Crash to just go pack to pack.
Yeah.
Have you been using it just like that, just for the damage boost on that as well?
Well, the thing is that 3 Frenzy charges are so much juicy damage that I feel like it's almost not worth it to consume them in order to get the bonus damage.
Are you not using Blood Rage though, and just get them back as soon as you kill the mobs?
Problem with Blood Rage is that it's been recently nerfed, so you don't necessarily get those green balls back.
It's 25% chance now, Ziggy, not 100.
Yeah, but still killing a pack, you should still get.
No, you're right. For the
Yeah,
most
but
part, you do regenerate those.
The way
green-
you're thinking about it now, though, Ziggy is thinking of this. You're saying upon killing a pack, don't you want the charges to kill the pack? Not because now
Well, you get the damage boost from the phase run.
and a
guess.
rallying cry right before you smash. I really enjoy this skill right now. It's a lot of fun.
To touch on war cries, I feel like every build should either be using Enduring Cry, Rallying Cry, I guess Abyssal if you really want to, but those two, like, you could squeeze it in any build. Enduring Cry has so many uses. If you're EB, you use Zealot's Oath.
Actually,
gotta
rate
use-
Abyssal over Rallying. I feel like Rallying is
Really?
kind of boring. Half the bonus
so
is the fucking clarity, and who cares about that shit?
It gives so
It's
much
bad.
damage. It gives so much damage.
I remember when we first started talking about this skill gem, Ziggy hated the mana regen on it. Ziggy was like, "Why would you ever?"
Yeah, I'm
use that?"
still
Here
salty
comes
about the mana regen
Here
because
comes
it's so
Ziggy
pointless.
like 5 months later. I still hate that damn level 1.
Yeah,
cleric.
I
It
still
kills me.
hate the mana regen.
I like
It's-
Rallying Cry.
It saved
I
me
initially
from
thought
running a
Abyssal
mana
Cry
flask
was
by
weird,
3.
but I kind of like it now.
Oh, Abyssal Cry is great, but the thing is, like, if you're forced into using a mana flask in your 3 slot as opposed to a life flask, especially for, like, say, the Malachi fight, I think Abyssal Cry is huge.
Abyssal-
And then, you jump on slugs to generate endurance charges. It's a little awkward, but, like, to have that, like, free clarity and not have to, waste a flask slot on mana, it's good stuff.
I think it's really good with, like, any trap, like a Poison Trapper build or a Fire Trap build where you want them to stay in there, things like that. Especially Poison Trap. It gives you the Chaos Explosion, you're scaling Chaos damage, and then you're keeping them slow in the trap. It's got a use there.
Oh, for sure. And watching purple explosions, it's wonderful.
It is beautiful. Rip Infernal Blow, Abyssal Cry. You were once 44% of the target's health.
I remember that. Yeah.
That was so broken.
Rip. That was the first build I played in beta, and it was OP.
Good job, Xana. You got it nerfed.
No, not really. It's just they buffed Infernal Blow and then decided to absolutely decimate it after it had 5 days of fun.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it was
Yeah.
probably that kooky summoner guy that was doing the Suckwave totems with the Abyssal Cry blowing everything up all at once. That was
Agreed.
nice.
Can we take a moment to appreciate the fact that, as much as people may be having a bit of a cry about Flame Totem use at the moment, that Flame Totem didn't get the Infernal Blow treatment, like the 20% damage nerf scaling off to 0% damage nerf at level 20, rather than it now deals 15% of the damage it dealt before. I think I appreciate that GGG were a little more tentative in their Flame Totem adjustments.
You're just trying to defend the fact that everybody hates you for getting Flame Totem nerfed, which
Hey.
it really didn't get
Hey.
nerfed at all.
You guys are complaining
is
about
more.
everyone using Flame Totem too much now. Could you imagine if it still had the 20% more damage at low levels? Could
True.
you?
True.
Fine. I'll take my thank yous now. You can change your hate mail to thank you mails now.
Diglets of Exile, sign me up.
I just can't believe, like, literally level one flame totems can kill mobs in an unspec flame like white mobs in Act 3.
And that's the nerfed one, Pox.
Like, what if you use the level 1 fireball? You'd be like, well, meanwhile, 10 minutes later, I dealt 5%. I finally procced an ignite. The ignite did no damage, so I crashed my game because it did 0 to 1 damage and rolled 0. So,
Chat's got the blame Ziggy's going on now.
Where's
Ziggy
that
Totem
wanted
Killer.
poster? That wanted poster.
Oh yeah,
Number
that
one
was
on Reddit
I,
for a
well
while.
done.
Sweet, I've got like one of those warrior names. Ziggy Totem Killer. Perfect.
Ziggy Totem. That's like a rare mob name right there.
If I've ever
What's,
made into a unique mob, I want that.
I think we had enough talk about all these new skills and the Ziggy Wanted poster. Let's go into the new bosses. The side bosses, there's 4 of them prior to Malachi. The Corrupted Piety, and what do we have? Dodre, lost word.
The Were
Shavron,
Malagaro?
and Malagaro. There we go, sorry.
It's the ones.
Let's start with Piety. There seems to be mixed opinions about her. Mechanically, she's a pretty heavy mechanical fight, and she's extremely rippy. But what are you guys' thoughts on her? Pox, what do you think about Piety?
so I haven't done her too much. I've maybe done her like 5, 6, 7 times and whatnot. And actually, maybe a bit more. And I know that in Merciless, that beam, I don't know exactly what damage type it does. I haven't calculated. I know it puts like a short little debuff on you when it hits you, assuming it doesn't kill you in one shot, which seems to be the case in Merciless. There's also been speculation that if you stand in close range, it deals less damage, but in Merciless, it will still one-shot you. So don't try to do that. But my biggest issue with the fight is, again, as a person who hasn't experienced it too much, it's kind of overwhelming when you start the fight and then you don't know where the beam is going to be placed, and the beam is placed like 2 inches from your character. And as a caster, you're probably not in point blank. You know, you're in the closer part of the room to her, but you're not like point blank because you don't want to, you know, those explosion things that pop up. You don't want to get them around her because you need to run around her. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, you're distracted for maybe half a second, and then the laser's like right up on your ass. So I don't know. I feel that it's really awkward. Also, if you get her positioned against kind of close to a wall, because that's what I did as Kinetic Blast. I wasn't really thinking. I had her right near a wall to, you know, get a shotgun effect or AoE overlapping explosion, and then her laser came, and I'm like, well, let me just portal out or Alt F4 because I don't know how I'm supposed to run around her right now because it's it's like an arc. So
she generally doesn't move, but if you portal out and stand in Grace, she'll sometimes walk around if she doesn't have any attacks to do. So watch out if you're doing that.
Yep. One other thing to note as well is that invisible stuff, I guess that mechanic hasn't been fixed yet. So if you portal as the laser's coming and you come back in, you will not be able to see it and it will still hit you. It'll be completely
Just wait
invisible.
for her to throw those spinny, lightningy...
Yeah, to get out of that phase.
Yeah,
right.
and it'll be your indicator that the phase is over.
Yeah,
Tips for that laser, though, what I've noticed is if you're playing a ranged character, just go into melee range during the laser beam, run as close as you can to it, and then you could DPS, and then you just run again close to it, and then DPS. It's really not too bad. And then when that laser's done, walk back out so you don't get
you
hit
can
by
actually
your
you can actually DPS during that phase if you're
Yep.
close to it.
The
That's
only-
like the mechanic of the fight.
Right. The only thing I was saying is I wish there would be an indicator of where the laser is going to start. Like just
Yes.
that's
Yes,
all
that's what I
I'm
was gonna
not.
say.
I don't want them to change anything. It's a great mechanic. Again, I have no problem with it doing insane damage because it's a cool mechanic.
Exactly.
I just want an indicator so you know you can get, even if it's half a second, just so you can see it, you can get positioned, you're ready. It's
a
all
simple
that I'm
single
asking.
mechanic fight, but that one mechanic, just the fact that it starts, you
Yes.
know, you don't know where it's gonna be. That's the only issue. Like it could one shot you. It could be another one shot mechanic, and it kind of almost is.
It maps, it definitely will.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that, but it needs better telegraphing as well. You need to know where it's gonna start. There needs to be a little bit of a build up before it starts spinning.
I don't know.
That'd be perfect.
Especially after playing an Immortal build, I'm a big fan of counting. I really like the whole kind of, not necessarily counting exact seconds, but just kind of a feel of this is 10 seconds ish before this happens again. And
get used to
especially for keeping endurance charges up, Immortal Call up, etc. You get used to this kind of rhythm, and I think it's perfectly fine to have a piety fight that has rhythm, and like. It's really not necessarily essential, even for the new players, to have this like, I'm a fire in my player! You know, it doesn't have to be that. It could just as easily be like a little bit of a reel back, and then she fires it. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be like a full-on Kamehameha that charges up for 3 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. It's something just like getting a little
I
bit
was
of
like,
reeling.
half a second, not a Kamehameha, not a Kamehameha. But the only reason why I bring this up
That's supposed to go
because-
for 2 episodes.
That's right, but it's not like Spirit Bomb. Meanwhile, I'm still watching the series. But the only issue I have is I think of a lot of these again in endgame maps when you're mapping, and a lot of the game is about risk versus reward. And of course, when you're progressing, there's not a risk versus reward. It's do I want to get to cruel difficulty or merciless? I have to kill her. But when you get into maps, you know, if map drops are based upon you killing the bosses, is it really worth the risk of not being 100% accurate of where it's going to start? And then you just lost your character because it hit you because you didn't know where it was going to start. That's all that I'm talking
She'll be
about.
a skip if
You want to
it
hear
stays
something crazy?
as it is.
I did her in Cruel, and it was the Galvanizing Tempest was in there. Galvanizing Tempest gives you extra damage based off your physical as lightning, and you always shock. Let me tell you about that beam. Nearly one shot. By the way, with 90% estimated physical, yada yada yada, fortified.
But doesn't that mean you pick up the buff and it makes your penis enormous? Like, I feel like it's
Goes
a
all the way
give
out.
What's
take.
it matter if she has it? Good luck with the crit one, by the way. That crit Tempest, oh my! I fought the wrestler with the crit Tempest. It was really fun.
Did you find the one in the one with shocked ground as well? That's a nice synergy.
Oh my god. Let's go into Malagero. What do you guys think? Thoughts on Malagero, Ziggy?
Malagara, I'd say, is probably the sketchiest of the 3 mini bosses. He's kind of one of those ones where it's like you want to kind of stagger your movement around the zone so that he keeps his traps clustered as much as possible. Obviously, if you're going through, you can pick up a Chaos Res Flask. It's going to make a big difference because he deals primarily Chaos damage. But
Chaos,
yeah, I don't know.
fire, and physical.
Have you guys figured out the composition of his EK, by the way?
I know it goes through Frostwall.
And he shoots like 3 out at once. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's like really fast. All
Yeah,
I do on that
it's-
guy is I take out a granite, take out an amethyst, face tank him. He's like a gear check fight, just get in his face and.
That's not how life works as all characters.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
how it
really-
works.
I don't really
Just
have
let
too
it-
much to say about it.
I mean,
When you-
he's very basic. He DDs, he detonate deads, he throws chaos traps, and he EKs. That's pretty much the fight.
Yeah, but again, when you're building a character that's purely defensive, that's fine. But not everyone plays purely defensive, so that's the thing.
Well, if you just portal, I mean, like, serious, a granite and
You
an
could
amethyst
portal.
and just face tank because he won't EK in the face tank range. He doesn't EK at all.
He still hurts the face
I
tank.
disagree.
He still hurts the face tank.
I have been all of the things in melee range by that guy. I tend to burn about 10 portals per Malagaro fight.
I mean, when you're using Iron Reflexes plus Grace, using 7 Endurance Charges and Fortify on a Marauder or a Duelist, I mean, you're naturally not going to take as much damage as most characters. So, I mean, as a Wander, I went in his face in Cruel, and he was killing me in 2 to 3 hits with autos.
Yeah, and Merciless in maps, I could see him being, like, super strong, you know?
I killed him in Merciless with 1 death, I think, and it was still, but I had negative 60% Chaos Res, but it was still, I could not go in his face. Life would not let me go in his face.
I mean,
And watching
Weaver and
watching
Merciless-
Nugi fight him in Merciless was so stressful an experience on his Cyclone character.
Malagaro, like, all right, let's think about, like, Weaver. Weaver is kind of scary and Merciless, but doable. But Weaver in a map, forget it. Malagaro and Merciless, super rippy. Have fun in a map.
I don't even think Weaver's that bad in Merciless. If you like, I think Weaver's a joke. And in maps, I don't even think Weaver's difficult. I think the problem with Weaver is that
Is
when you
the
enter
res.
the room, you get like 15 blue spiders with
That
Flicker
flicker,
Strike,
yeah.
and each Flicker Strike does like 2k unmitigated physical, and then your character dies. Before
And then you
the
got like
boss
a
even
rare
spawns.
with a crit aura and
Right,
a rare with
exactly.
a haste aura.
as the rares rain down. But
Okay.
this fight is just the guy is actually running. Like, do you see Weaver like literally like jumping at you? Like that's what I mean. This character's just like on steroids.
Well, now that you guys are talking about spiders, I have a question that's been on my mind for a while. What the hell happened to Viper Strike? I've had a white mob almost one-shot me. Well, not one-shot me, but the degens.
The
like,
chickens, the turkeys, those turkeys freaking hit so hard. They tornado
egg-
shot and they viper, and then the freaking rare, the unique mob, forget him. I hate him too.
Viper
Viper
Strike's
Strike's been
just
bad
really
for ages on mobs though, but it's just even more noticeable with the Act 4 mobs being sketchy.
Okay.
I like
So it's just
Viper Strike.
more fizz, more scaling.
Well, in
Um,
general, they globally increased damage a while ago. Just that could be it from the beta.
Okay.
It seems like Malagaro's more of a gear check, like the gear check of the three. Dodre is kind of like a hybrid where it's gear check and mechanics, and Shavron's strictly mechanics. With the exception of Lightning Thorns, if you're playing like a Incinerate or Molten Strike, you gotta be careful with that. But for the most part, like Shavs seems really easy, where it's just don't stand in shit.
Have you hit Shavs with Lightning Thorns up when she's pinned against the wall with 1 Kinetic Blast?
I did just say you have to just watch the Lightning Thorns. That was it.
Yeah, Lightning Thorns is the
I'd
only
say
real
that's-
bad
That's
sign
it.
of that.
I mean, I
bad.
did just say that.
I didn't even hear that. My bad. It just, I just like wanted. I was like edge massive, but I just wanted to say it. I hit
In
myself for like
Merciless?
3k in Merciless.
In Merciless capped resistances, the tendrils are capable of critting you for almost all of your life. I can
the
tell you that for certain.
That's the only thing. I like that fight the most, except I can see that that's the only fight that is inherently anti-melee.
Really?
With Lightning Tendrils is
I think she's
a nasty
really
spell.
melee friendly.
They all seem
You
to
think it's melee
encourage the
friendly?
whole in-out behavior, like a Cycloner that's like, as Pox was talking about the Malachi fight before, where you're comfortable with running around in circles, and each time you do a lap, you just kind of make a little stop off, fuck you, bitch, and then keep on running in circles. You just lather, rinse, repeat that process, and she'll go down pretty smoothly.
That's really weird because on all my characters, I even showed it on my stream that her tendrils did nothing to me. I literally on my Ranger and Merciless or my Wander, I went in her face and was just frenzying her because she did nothing.
Yeah, I
with
haven't played her
tendrils.
on melee. I just saw that she used Lightning Tendrils, and I'm like, well, that's only an anti-melee spell. That doesn't do anything as a ranged character.
That was weird. She was just
But if it
like
doesn't hit that much.
I was just like, oh, it looks so nice.
Just spitting at
Yeah.
you. All right.
But-
Well, if it doesn't do that much damage, then I
I
thought
don't
it
know.
would.
It is like
Yeah,
that's the
lightning
thing.
tendrils is usually pretty
It's
sketchy.
The properties of lightning, it could have just been that it rolled in the sub 10% damage every time on me. That's how lightning is. Lightning can roll anywhere it wants unless the boss mechanics are different.
Yeah. And if she didn't crit as well, like that's a big.
There was no,
difference.
yeah, I never got shocked because if it crits, all 4 are crits. So the first one amplifies the damage of the next 3 upcoming.
What are you guys' thoughts on Deirdre?
So I like the cursed ground thing is pretty cool, but she's kind of boring, isn't she? Just spitting out her globs. That's
She's
all she
boring, but she's hits like a freight train. If you have vulnerability on
Yeah.
you, oh my
Don't get
god.
so there's 3 curses in there. There's vulnerability, there's temp chains, and there's enfeeble. Just DPS in enfeeble. It's gonna be slower, sure, but don't get greedy and try and DPS in the vulnerability zone.
That's what I
It's not-
do.
Yep,
It's not
you
worth
get
it.
wrecked. She'll slam dunk you so
That's
hard.
me. She hits me for
Yeah.
2k with a regular hit. So- but I'm like, if you're playing a crit build, you don't want to be enfeebled, then screw temp chains. So I mean, you could be cool and stand
the
and get all
safest spot is
3.
in the middle of the map as well. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Just get Tricers. Who doesn't want that?
Honestly, I think that Act 4, even just from this, is telling you, like, if you just go into that fight, that you should use Enfeeble and Temp Chains on every boss and mob you fight, especially if it's a Revenant. So, that's what it seems like.
Dual curse meta.
Yeah, honestly, it really does. Like, if you think of these bosses, like, with the exception of, with the exception of Chavrons and Dodre, but, like, Malachi, even Piety, I think Temp Chains might slow her spin of the laser. I could be wrong. I think it might. And then again with Malachi, I feel like Temp Chains and Feeble are insanely strong right now.
Here's a tip against Deirdre. Curses last about a second on her, which is kind of cool by nature because she's the curse type boss.
Huh.
You put it on before you can even DPS, it's off. She's like highly resistant to them, so don't even try. It's just a waste of a cast.
It's pretty
My
cute.
solution. My solution is melee to her is to roll 2 warding flasks, ideally 2 quicksilvers for maximum duration, and just face tank her, and then once she starts barfing on you a little too hard, you just portal out and lather, rinse, repeat.
Have you guys ever seen if she shotguns with she does a multi-toss sometimes? Have you
She
guys ever seen if
shotguns.
those
Yes.
shotguns?
Yes.
Okay.
Shotguns.
Yeah, I haven't been hit by it to test.
I like how she looks like Bowser from Super Mario World, where she's floating around in her little Koopa cup.
with her fat rolls hanging out over the edge.
I mean, she is pretty beautiful. I'm glad they added such a gorgeous looking woman.
Well, if you ever want to revisit, just check my overlay. It's
Yeah.
very classy.
Your overlay is amazing. Who cares about the skulls? I got her. So boss fights, I like how all of them are Malgaro, not so much of mechanical. It's definitely a gear check, but the other ones are very mechanical. They're all very rippy in their own nature. I like it. I like how hard Act 4 is. I'm happy that the end of the game is hard rather than, well, I'm finally in upper whatever it is on the way to Dominus. That area sucked in Act 3 and then Dominus sucked. But the thing I think most people are realizing, there's a lot of QQ about how hard it is. We've had the past 2 years to learn Act 1 through 3. So eventually it's just going to become very easy because it's rinse, repeat, you learn it. Act 4 is not only is it new, but the bosses are meant to like kill you, no joke, mechanical fights. So the two combined, I could see where people are upset, but honestly, I like it.
Yeah. I'm kind of liking it too, actually. I'm kind of liking the overall feeling of difficulty. And the struggle, I enjoy the struggle bear mode, and I often say that. That's what I enjoy the most in Path of Exiles, when you're really struggling to get the resists you want and to get your gear sorted and get past a boss fight. I like when it's sketchy, but I do think that probably in normal. All right. Here's the thing that makes me feel a little weird about the whole difficulty tuning of Act 4. That when you get back to Act 1, the mobs have way less HP and way less damage. Like, I don't care if they're mechanically easier. That's always going to be the case. You're going to go back to Act 1. It's supposed to be a little bit of a relaxing holiday because you're going back to zombies and skeletons. Like, I've always loved that in like Diablo, going back to Act 1. That's always the best feeling. But for the actual damage and HP to be so much lower, that makes it feel a little weird.
Okay, Ziggy, as much as I agree with you here, like that developer's paradigm exists and it's okay, like I don't necessarily agree with it, but whatever. I feel like that feeling persists too long. That lull feels like once you finish normal Malachi, you feel like that lull lasts until the end of Act 3.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
literally back in Act
Agreed.
4 cruel by the time that you feel like the content has
Yeah,
gotten
yeah, it's
challenging.
pretty much Act 4 normal is like late Act 3. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Cool. Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Most of the mobs in Act 4 have very low health, though. I feel like I one-shot them. Like, Combs
Remnants?
area is pretty... the damage is pretty high in Combs and Duresso's area. The mines is pretty easy. I don't know.
I
The
don't
puncture
think
mobs
those-
can be a little scary.
I don't think they're low HP at all. Like the guys that throw little midgets at you.
Well, they're
and,
golems. What do you expect?
Well, no, you were saying they're. I'm just
I
saying
mean-
those are tanky. Again, the puncture mobs are pretty tanky. The
No way.
Tawanas.
I one-shot those clowns.
The puncture mobs are really tanky unless they adjusted them in beta. They were like, I'm pretty sure they're pretty tanky.
Knitted
Oh, nice
horrors.
crash,
Yeah,
yeah,
rares are usually a skip on those.
And then there's the what is it? Tawanas. What are they called? The ones with the tails that in Combs area.
Oh, they renamed them from Tanifa to Rakengo.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
Kango.
Kangos now.
All right, we'll just call them kangaroos. The kangaroos are pretty tanky. What else do we have? The what's the remnants? Remnants in Act 4, I think, are pretty tanky. I'm just saying for like if you're comparing them to basic mobs, I would say they're substantially more tanky than other ones.
Just the plain old white mobs, yeah, it's pretty nuts. Yeah, actually, so much so that those revenants are pretty much getting used as specters by every summoner that I've heard from and talked to thus far.
So I think it feels like that Act 4 is a very mechanical act in general. A lot of the mobs are very mechanical and reward good mechanics, and the bosses especially so. And I love that. But it does feel like that maybe the numbers are a little high across the board for a lot of those things.
Yeah. There are some fights I do agree the damage is a little high. And but at the same time, DGG did give us a ton of new tools for defenses, apart from casters. You know, I do feel like there's a lot. They're giving us more and more tools, and they're buffing. Like armor got buffed across the board. In case people didn't see the patch notes, it's now 18% more effective than it was. We have fortified.
Well, that was supposed to be in line with the damage change that mobs do. Like across the board damage, mob damage was buffed as well.
I feel like it didn't quite keep up.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I had like seriously. I face tanked all of Act 4 Cruel, 0 problems on an.
Certainly,
armor.
melee, despite the inherent disadvantages of playing melee, have gotten the the plethora of positive changes for defensive options.
Yeah, it's I cruised through everything playing a melee. I had no issues. Actually, one thing I want to bring up since we were talking about like the lull state is I guess one thing that really points it out for me is after you're done killing Malachi in normal or cruel, and you go to Twilight Strand and you kill Hillock before he even goes into his second phase. You guys know what I mean?
Yes.
That's for me. That's like oh, that was technically a mini boss or a boss or whatever you'd like the zone boss.
I remember in Cruel, I'd be in Act 4, and everyone in chat would be like, "Why is your DPS so bad?" Now I know I'm usually no DPS Ziggy, whatever, but then I would finish Act 4 and I'd get back to Act 1 and I'd be like, I'd be believing it by the end of Act 4. I'm like, oh my god, what is this build have I made? What am I doing with my life? And then I get back to Act 1 and Act 2 and Act 3 of the next difficulty, and I'm like,
face roll it.
you know what? My character's actually wrecking. Like, what is going on? So yeah.
Oh my god. I don't know. Do you guys think that's intended though? Like I've had this conversation with several people this far. And
Chris did say on Reddit yesterday or like today that they are on the side of releasing over difficult because it's easier to nerf than it is to buff. It's easier to nerf things that you fight against than it is to buff them, and the opposite for skills that you use from a developer standpoint.
okay.
So
Usually what I see is, this is just a trend I've noticed with GGG, and it's rather not a bad trend, it's a pretty good trend, is about a week after leagues going live, they introduce their first big set of changes. So, like, if you look at Invasion, for example, a big set of changes the first week, or Beyond with things that literally could not die with life regen, with, you know,
That
aura
was
of
day
life
one.
regen.
That was day one. I got
Well,
fixed.
I'm just bringing up a point. Usually, you got to give them like a
nice.
week to, you know, read the feedback and etc. and see what people like and what people don't like, and then they'll adjust their own changes and put it into it.
I think we'll probably see some. I think we'll see some rebalancing changes. Maybe just some preliminary ones within the next 2 days.
I would have to agree.
To be fair, at the start of all these new leagues, they didn't have hundreds of people for 4 days testing this content as well.
That's true. I mean, that's very true.
They got a lot of things to do at the office, I'm sure, but it's like We gave you 4 days of us being murdered repeatedly. Please do something with this data.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are going pretty overboard with saying that GGD didn't interact with the community or act with any feedback from the beta and stuff like that, that it was just bug testing, but that is definitely not the case. There was heaps of balancing done on that, but there was a few things that weren't really touched on despite tons of discussion about it, and I think, like, the common thing, like, throughout the entire beta, Act 4 felt way more overtuned than going back to Act 1. Like, that same thing we've talked about was the case throughout the entire beta, and that feedback wasn't reacted on, and I'm sure that was talked about tons. So that might be happening more after launch, I guess.
We've been talking a lot about Act 4, but we really haven't talked too much about Tempest. We've hinted to here and there. What are you guys' overall opinions about Tempest as a league right now? Is it fun? Do you think it needs to be a little bit more? What are your thoughts on it? Pox, go ahead.
I'm gonna wait to be the last person here because my thoughts are not very positive. So I'm gonna let everyone else speak first.
All right, I'll talk about mine. Mine is semi-circle jerky, where it's still early. I like some of it. The way how Tempest works currently is there is positive Tempest, where if you stand in it after it detonates, it gives you a buff, but it also gives monsters a buff. And these buffs are very, very significant. I mean, like, huge. Then there's some trolly ones that transmogrify that will just automatically, as if you're vendoring whatever items are.
Pray you don't see any divines.
Yeah, pray you don't see any divines because you just lost a 6 link. And then there's ones that will both attack you and monsters, where there's like one that will just, for instance, Arctic does, glacial cascades, frost walls, ice golems. They'll just spawn from these. So there's it's like an unbiased thing where it has no problems attacking monsters or you. It doesn't. It chooses it at random. In regards to the league, it's starting to grow on me. At first, I was like, this is really lame and normal because there's no suffixes. There's only prefixes. There's only the little spinny ones you see. There's no desecrated ground or shock ground or of influence, which I think makes the rings bigger and more potent. Like,
it feels particularly boring and normal because 3 of the Tempests are ones that only affect physical. So you probably wouldn't have experienced this, but as a caster, the ones that add damage based on physical damage, none of those affect you. So
really, you don't get percent increase. It's lightning damage.
It's all physical.
It gives you extra lightning damage if you're dealing lightning damage. If it gives you extra fire damage if you're dealing fire damage. So in Ziggy's case, if he got the fire one, it would have buffed his damage, but the lightning and cold would do nothing.
It doesn't say that on the tooltip.
It does.
I believe it does right at the very end.
So it can affect you, but only 1/3 of the time.
Yeah, only 1/3. And then there's shrinking and enlarging, which makes you bigger or smaller, which reduces or increases your damage. And then there's energized. Oh, energized gives you all charges. Whatever your max charges are, it gives it to you.
That's nice.
It's really nice, but mobs get it too. Frenzy charges give more damage. So it's like, double-edged sword kind of thing. Overall, it's starting to grow on me. Most of the mechanics are kind of rehashed. There's some that are new, but for the most part, they're really, really just rehashed mechanics. The one to be scared of, the one that I'm terrified of is the Veil of the Night one. It gives you what Veil of the Night helmet does. It's like Moonlight Veil or something.
Do you recall the name of this Tempest?
Like Moonlight Veil or something like that. It reduces your resistances all to 0 or increases them to 0 depending on what you're at. So be very careful against that one. There's some other ones too that are pretty rippy. Oh, all your damage is now Chaos. Good luck in Merciless. So monsters all have Chaos damage. There's some really rippy ones.
Chaos res.
So you definitely have to be aware. For the most part, though, like any of the damaging ones, I just kind of ignore. I'm like, whatever, just don't stand in it. Don't stand in fire. What are your thoughts, Sean? Oh, or Ziggy?
I was going to say, it seems like from what I've heard about warbands and my experiences with Tempest, that both of them are not really very interesting and normal and cruel. But most of the interesting stuff comes in Merciless and maps. So
maps are rippy.
It's a shame that they're not more interesting early league, because that's what most people are going to experience, especially a lot of new players. It'd be interesting if those mechanics were a little more engaging. But as I said, like 1/3 of 3 of the most common Tempests in normal difficulty didn't even affect me, or 2/3 didn't even affect me. It's kind of boring.
Yeah, but that's the kiddie pool. That's before they, hey, welcome to Cruel. Bah! There's the deep end. Enjoy.
Yeah, they could have put some of like the fun, interesting ones in there. Like it's cool that transmogrifying comes in pretty early because that's kind of it's kind of a cute one. You're like, well, what's going on here? And then there was also the quality one, which is fun when you get a gem drop. So that's the dream there.
How about the
Which did happen
shrinking
to me.
one that turned you so kawaii desu?
That one is that one's awesome. Man. Very cute.
There's one that gives you 100% crit, which also affects monsters. There's some that increases the potency of it, or increases the ring of them, or the rate at which they spawn. The suffix is.
Yeah,
so
is that like intensity or something?
there's intensity, influence. There's another one that increases the rate of. Here, I got a pretty funny one for us. There's one that gives you proc shield, which I thought was pretty funny. Where is it? Right here. It's
Proc
a picture.
shield?
You guys will see it. I was fighting a proximity shield monster,
Proximity
and then
shield.
it got proximity shield from the Tempest, and then Exhibit came out of nowhere, and here's the picture. But it's a huge bubble it gives you.
double bubble.
But there's a proc shield one. For the most part, it's pretty fun, but it just feels like normal hardcore when there's nothing, and then when it's rippy, it's really rippy. It's just like sometimes it's nothing, and then sometimes it's all in your face craziness.
Wow, sounds like maps.
Yeah, well, maps are insane. Like, I did a Zana map, and with like 2 Tempests on top of that, like, it completely changed everything. Zana map's already rippy as is. In fact, I ripped in one.
Rip.
Oh, is that what you were in when those
Yep.
when
I
those
was in a
Roas-
shocking ground, and it was the physical Tempest that shoots out, like, freaking earthquakes and shock.
Oh, you
totems.
died, Zeno? I didn't know you died, man.
Yeah,
Let's
I
check it out.
died.
Yeah, I've been meaning to ask. Did you not expect the Roas to charge at you at that moment that you leap slammed over them?
No, I tried to leap slam into them, stun them, and keep going. But I didn't have
Oh.
all of my defensive mechanics up. What happens was, I'm not a clear speed junkie, right? But I had to be forced to do clear speed because it was a Zana mission, and I wanted to finish it, and it was kill all the exiles. The last exile was in the boss room, practically. So I had to leap slam through all of this craziness. Didn't keep up anything, and this is why I play slow, because you go fast, get wrecked. I'm not a Sanic kind of guy.
Yeah, some of the Tempest mechanics and stuff like Zana and stuff that encourage you to really speed up beyond what you do. That's the thing where you gotta take a second to think about, like, hold on, is this actually worth it?
Yeah, I should have backed out. No, gotta go fast. Learn.
It's
my
like, I know
lesson.
I have 20% dodge right now, but is stepping inside that circle to get 20% dodge from this Tempest worth getting hit by all those rowers? Maybe not.
I've definitely had that moment. Or like when I'm fighting a boss and then all of a sudden, like Big Bird, and then all of a sudden the crit Tempest shows up over us and it's like, I better get him before the crit thing! And
Yeah, no.
then 90% of my life.
So many times I let a spirit get into a boss, and then I'm just like, I fight. I'm like, yay, more loot. But now I've learned my lesson from getting one shot by what's his name, the Malagaro Lightning Striker. I forgot his name for some reason. In Chamber of Sins, when he gets
Fiddleitis.
when he gets a spirit, he gets very, very one-shotty. I learned my lesson from that. So now, recently, I'm very proud of myself, and I just teleported out when it was Barcool got tormented. I was like, okay, I'm out.
That guy is always
Just reset the
tormented.
zone.
Every time that's the guy in Duresso's area, right?
Yeah, on the approach to Duresso.
Yeah,
So.
every time I go there, he's always corrupted, or he's always got a tormented spirit in
The
him.
Cycloner with the I don't know
Yeah.
what skill he uses where he slams the ground and like an eruption of molten fiery
Yeah,
hell comes
that
up.
guy is always tormented. I swear to
Yeah.
God.
And strangely enough, he has 2 mini bosses next to him that could also get tormented by a spirit, and yet it always seems to go into him.
They moved those mini bosses now.
Yeah,
They have their own
now,
little area
random
together.
hallway, Yeah.
No.
Yep, they're together in an arena. The Doge and the Turkey.
But without Barcool?
Not with
Or
Barcool
Barthol?
anymore, because it was already
Oh.
AIDS and
Thank
fighting
God,
all that.
they're dangerous enough
Yeah.
as it is. Those
It was
things.
so
Yogi
much
Bear-
fun getting tag teamed by those 3.
Oh, man,
The
Yogi Bear and
best.
Boo Boo have been moved. So
So sad.
that's what I call them. Yogi Bear and Boo Boo.
That fight
Yogi
was-
Bear and Boo Boo.
That's there, man.
We have the dumbest names for some of the stuff.
Yogi
You-
Bear
you
and
should-
Boo Boo.
You should hear all the stuff, all the
Forever
names that I've
Young.
given to like golems and specters. Pocked Goliath, we called him Greg.
Greg,
No particular reason, but you should specter one and give him
Um,
minion speed if you want a good laugh.
how about our summon golems? Scooter, Dum Dum, and Clyde.
Yep.
Mine are Doug and Steve.
Doug and Steve. There you go.
Yeah, no
Our
criticism.
third
there.
one.
Maps overall, though, like, I'm not sure if it works similar to how the zones work, where, like, for instance, Broken Bridge will always have this for the next hour or half hour, however long it is. I'm not sure if all of Tropical Islands will have this buff or that Tempest for an hour or half hour. I'm not sure if it works that way. But there is a problem with mapping where it doesn't show you what Tempest it is. So you gotta kind of play a guessing game where, you press tab and you see the affixes normally when you're playing the game. In maps, it does not do that, and I think it is an issue.
I think they intended for us to work as guinea pigs for each other and to use like this kind of Stormwatcher information sharing thing to like warn each other. Hey,
but it doesn't even show the name, so you have to guess the name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doesn't show the name when you're inside the map.
It doesn't show you when you press tab and you see the list. It doesn't appear.
So
it's question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yeah, no, that should be in there. That should totally be in there.
It should be in there, agreed, but it's not.
I keep thinking when I step inside a Tempest when I don't know what it does, I'm like, oh, this will be the one that one-shots your character. It's like, there's one Tempest that just kills you. It's just a Death Tempest. I'm like, just waiting for that one.
For me, it's always like, this is the one that's going to make me super OP and give me tons of fizz damage, and then it's like, Rain of Chaska on my face. Of course, it doesn't hurt, but let's just wait till maps. I'm sure it will.
Yeah, I fought the 100% crit Tropical Island boss, and it was already in Extra Lightning, and then he got a 100% crit Tempest, and I was like, well, I nearly got one hit, because he already has that sub-fizz aura. I'm telling you, dude, these Tempests are they make mapping very, very hard.
They make progression feel like maps, I feel.
Yep.
Especially like trying to farm zones, like say the Aqueducts or the Dried Lake. Sometimes you go in there and be like, this is unsafe, let's go somewhere else.
So, Pox, I think we're all done. You can get on your little soapbox now.
All right,
salt box.
So first off, I do want to state that anything and everything I'm saying is subjected to change because remember I was talking about that first week where GGG really needs to understand how they feel about the league. So I do want to put that out there so any negativity I throw could totally be altered and changed. Second thing I want to state is I haven't made it to maps yet because I didn't find the league very fun, which I'll go into. But again, the league is designed well. I'm not saying it's not. It is designed well. I just don't enjoy it, and here's a few things why. So, first off, I want to state in normal, again, this is just normal difficulty. It was not enjoyable for me to, if I wanted to gain the benefit of the Tempest, I'd have to sit in it for 4 seconds before it would give it to me, and then I get the buff for 10 seconds. So I wait for 4 seconds to get the buff for 10 seconds, and then and then if a mob were to go over to it, you should be able to kill a mob easily within 4 seconds. So I didn't have any issues on normal. And then I got to Cruel, where it gets a little more interesting, where you have properties on the field itself, but it kind of just feels like mapping already. It feels like early level mapping, and you're gonna be mapping when you get higher level. And when I was watching stuff, sure, I'm not gonna lie at all. It makes the game significantly harder. You have to pay attention to what's happening. Maybe like a Roa could be charging, and then it gets the buff, and then it snapshots the damage, and you get slammed, and crazy deaths can happen. I don't doubt that whatsoever. But I just feel like these are new map properties to add on to maps. I just feel like you're rolling a rip map with just more rip mods. It doesn't feel like anything totally new to me because I used to run rippy maps all the time, and it just feels like it's just more stuff on the floor to dodge. And to me, it's a great mechanic. I don't doubt it, at all. But it just doesn't feel, I don't know, like anything special to me 100%. That's all I really have to say.
I agree with that, especially because most of the Tempests early on are just like slight modifiers, and a lot of them, as you said, do feel like map modifiers.
The buffs feel like they're way better for the mobs than us, and they also last longer on the mobs. And it does take too long to get the buff. It really does. I can agree with that. I can agree with those statements. It does feel like rehashed content again. Like, you think about Nemesis, we have all these interesting mods, and they put them on Bloodlines. Now we have 2 of the same mechanic. And then, like, all these ghosts and all these things, it's just like how many times you're going to rehash the same thing. Proc shields, extra damages, lightning. It just, there are some Tempests that are new. Like the Veil of the Night one, ha ha ha, that's funny. Or the Val Haste and Val Discipline. We haven't really seen that buff on us other than the gem. But it does feel rehashed.
I don't know, it's just my opinion. Like, I've seen a mob use Desecrate. It's more just Desecrate on the floor now. You can run a map with Desecrate like on it, so it feels like early mapping. There's just stuff on the floor like you would do a map, and it just, to me, I don't want to map at early game. That's why you wait till end game, because what are you gonna do at end game? You're gonna map till whenever you decide to stop mapping. Like that's pretty much majority of your end game aside from currency farming or unique farming, or if you do something else. So to me, again, it literally just feels like you're pushing your character into end game without actually being an end game. So I don't know. It wasn't anything But again, I mean, there's not much they could do, I guess. I mean, I don't really know. But I guess one other thing to note is it's just adding more cases of spike damage. It's not really sustained. It's like this mob now shocks you 100% of the time it hits you. Damage is already crazy, like out of the roof right now. So like playing a caster build with a Roa that's going to hit you for 5k damage in a white map or something because of the Tempest, I don't know. It's just kind of, again, it's just pushing me to want to play a melee because I've played a melee and I had no problem face rolling, but now in a caster, it's just, I'm not really sure. It just feels, the game just feels like it's changed quite a lot now, and I don't know if it's, to me, I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing. Of course, I want you guys to understand, this is totally just my opinion. I've been playing the game for quite a long time, so it's not meant in any type of negativity. It's just how it's really affected me.
With this, what would you say to change? So for instance, what would be a better change to Tempest League if, you know, in terms of waiting? How can they fix that? You know, waiting for the buff to apply. Because if they make it instant, the mob instantly has it
No,
too.
I don't know. I don't
You know?
I don't really have it. That's why I'm not saying that the game is bad, because I don't have a solution to it. You know, that's I don't really know. That's why
Well,
I
you
can't.
can you can totally have complaints without having proposed
I
solutions.
don't know.
It's still useful.
I prefer to like have a give a posed solution for something, because I'm not sure. I just don't like the aspect of, I guess, if I wanted the buff, I have to sit in the Tempest for anywhere from, I guess, 2 to 4 seconds, depending on when it spawns. Get a buff for what? How long is it again? 4 seconds, 6 seconds, or something.
I think it
And
might
then
be 10, but
sorry,
it doesn't
10.
feel
There
like
you go. Yeah, yeah.
It
10
depends on the
seconds.
buff. There's some that are 4 to 5 seconds, or some that are 10. It
Yeah.
really, like,
it feels a lot shorter than it is, I think.
yeah.
When I
Like,
when
All the
I
good ones
play,
are 4 seconds.
I guess just previously of me playing action role-playing games, to me, action role-playing games was all about like how fast you can go, just speeding through, just killing things, not like stopping here, picking this up. And then if I'm just avoiding the Tempests, I'm not really playing the. I guess I am playing the League by avoiding the Tempests, but I don't know. It just feels different to me. That's all.
I do agree to a certain extent. ARPG, you want to feel that godly power, you know, move. So I don't like standing in the buff, but you know, not every player does play that way. It's something we have to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, I think people that like like a slower, more tactical play will probably enjoy Tempest more overall. I can certainly now that last bit part you said about you like I've seen how you play. Like generally, Pox builds are what 3k life, no defenses, go as
3
fast as you
flash,
can,
go.
all damage.
Path of running in circles to avoid damage. Yeah, I like it.
all of my builds. It's okay though.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
this is
So,
definitely a high damage league, Pox, and that's your biggest problem. Is you,
I haven't died
you
in-
don't spec
yeah.
defenses
Yeah,
other
your
than life.
playstyle doesn't seem
No,
to go
no,
so
but
well
I
with
but I
Tempest.
have. That's what I mean. Like I've played in the beta already. I played melee, and I was talking about like I had a build that was, you know, it had 40% dual wield block with high armor, 200% life, no problem. I was fine, but it's just I don't know. Again, it feels like the game has changed, and it's not a bad thing. It's just it's hit me like literally it's hit my playstyle 100% directly. Like that's I don't know. So I could just
Yeah,
be taking
yeah.
it personally. I don't know. I've went through and talked to people about it, but yeah.
Have
Something
you
to
guys
say-
tried?
Certainly understand
Okay,
your
so-
grievance with it.
Have you guys tried playing to the risk reward of this league though? Just yet? It takes a little ballsy play to do it, but like say abuse the duration on the Tempest to kite a boss or a bunch of rares into it and then murder them while they're still under the influence of it.
Well, there's a lot of risk, but there's some reward Tempest you probably haven't seen yet. There's a Tempest that gives 20 exiles in that map. That's a lot of loot. There's a Tempest that
Exiles
gives
everywhere.
20 ghosts. There's a Tempest that gives you like 600 IIR and 300 IQ
I can't
or
wait to
something
see
retarded.
like the footage of like 10, or quadruple enchanted bosses and stuff like that.
Oh no, but I'm talking negative Tempest right now, like a Tempest that
like
gives
the
them
freeze ones and stuff.
Yeah, like the mob now or the monster now always freezes you and does extra damage as cold,
Yeah.
and then you murder it. Have you seen the cascade of magic and rare items that drop compared to like that same monster without it? I feel like the risk reward is there, and it just requires that we have balls. That's really what it comes down to. Like you gotta be willing to take some of that shit right on the chin, and it's not
Yeah, I
pleasant,
agree.
but if you can do it, I think it'll make it a little bit more worth it.
Here, for viewers' sake, if you were to rate it 1 out of 10, how would you rate Tempest in its current state from what you have experienced?
One other thing I want
Okay.
to bring up as well, just really fast. Oh, sorry, were you still going? Or did
No,
you-
go ahead, man.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so one thing I just also wanted to bring up is when I first started Tempest again, I was more excited to see Tormented Spirits and lockboxes than to see a Tempest, because the Tempest didn't do anything for me. It was standing in a buff that I had to wait for, or pushing a Tormented Spirit into something which takes no effort, and then killing it and getting instant gratification, or popping a lockbox and instantly killing it, and then just avoiding the Tempest. And then even into Cruel, same thing. I saw Tormented Spirit, push into a boss, kill it, get the loot, go on.
I gotta agree, 100%. Gotta agree.
And that's that's brand new to the league. That's what I mean. It's brand new.
Can we just have more strong boxes, less Tempest? Those are fun. Those are great.
But there's less strong boxes now, bro. Get wrecked.
I did the Arctic one. It did Ice Storm, and it killed a blue pack, which I'm not sure if you get experience for. It killed a blue pack of Herald of Obelisk, and I walk up, and all of a sudden I'm almost dead. Because like 8 Stormclaws blow up on my face. I'm like, what the hell, where'd these come from?
Wait, the Tempest killed the blue pack?
Herald of Obelisk, which then attacked me when I walked in line of sight of it.
What a bro.
Like, they were already dead.
Wow.
But
Who knew
anyways,
you were running with a third-party support build? Good stuff.
what would you guys rate it 1 out of 10 in its current state, Ziggy?
I'd probably put it on the scale of all of the challenge leagues about a 5. I think the pacing of the league is a little off. I like the idea of it, and I like the design behind it of communicating with people, especially around endgame and stuff like that. And I think most of the interesting Tempests have yet to be, most of us haven't interacted with yet. They're mostly at endgame. But overall, it feels like a 5 to me. Warbands with all of its cool aura bounces and uniques and stuff seems much more interesting to me.
I've heard it's quite boring for people, but
well, that's
I mean,
the start as well, because the normal difficulty is only just like you fight 3 tanky warriors. That's all it really is. So it's got the same problem of not getting interesting until late game.
Chad, what would you give Tempest?
Okay, so I like the idea of scaring the piss out of everyone at the top of the ladder. Everyone who's really, really good at this game and capable of moving very quickly and flasking and having good reflexes, anticipating, reading the monster mods fast, etc. I want to scare the living daylights out of them all the time. It's awesome. So that being said, before the laptop win, before Weasel actually managed to get that Merciless Malachi kill, I'd give it like a 9.5. After that, maybe a 3.5 to 4.
Okay.
Like now that pressure, that race scenario is gone.
That was
now
cool,
it's kind of,
wasn't it?
It was freaking awesome. And the fact that Carvo was Weasel was scared to go in there. Pam and Weasel avoided doing it. They could have done the kill an hour prior, but they didn't because of that Tempest that was over the Harvest. They tried it and they were just like, nah, man, this is too much. Can't do it.
I loved watching Hellman and
farmers,
Weasel
though.
compete for that. That was such a highlight of Path of Exile. They need to do more stuff like that, and more like timed pressure things early on to get and do sketchy endgame stuff.
And even more so, the fact that it wasn't downright impossible. It wasn't like the Harvest is now closed, you can't get in. You're allowed to go in. You're probably going to die, but Hellman had the balls to do it. So suddenly Hellman, who was behind Weasel and Pam this whole time, suddenly he has this window to catch up, and they're farming elsewhere where he can go into the Harvest and be like, screw this mod. I got this. I got balls.
Yeah. And Hellman was very close to getting it.
Exactly.
I mean, he went and did he got one shot like right at the start of the fight, which was entertaining as fuck. But he went and did the fight again like immediately after on standard and crushed the fight in like 10 minutes. Which
great.
Weasel took a lot longer to do the fight, but he didn't die, so Weasel ended up winning it. So that was such an awesome end to that little race. I loved it. So good.
But
Fox,
without that pressure.
Yeah.
Fox, what would you give it?
I mean, mechanically, because I like the way it alters the game, I would give it about like a 5 around what Ziggy said. But to me personally, I would rate it like a Dan's game out of 10. So, but that's again, I mean, it's my personal. I respect what they did because it's not bad. It does not pertain to me. That's all.
Being in maps, it's a lot more fun. I haven't seen the full extent of it, but I think that the buff is the worst part. Like waiting for the buff, it really does feel really clunky. And some of the buffs don't even help you. Like, I was playing an RT build, and I was in a crit Tempest, and I was like, cool story. Every mob could crit me, but I can't crit it, But then at the same time, there was a blinding one, and they were blinded, and I had RT. So it goes both ways. I would rate it probably a 5.5, 6 from what I've experienced. But it just feels like rehashed content, like nothing new. Like, we've seen most of these things, maybe like 80% of them we've already seen, and it's just now it's another thing you have to worry about. Well, there's a lot of Dan's game out of 10 in chat. Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like it's
think
pretty
I won.
clear what they spent the majority of their time on for this big patch, and it was definitely Act 4.
And that's what Beyond was with Forsaken
Which
Masters.
honestly, like, like, let's take a step back and think about it for a second. Honestly, that's fine. We got like a whole new act expansion, tons of new content. The challenge leagues being a little less interesting, I think, was fine. Like, I think they could have been less. I think they could have been less than what they are, and I would have still been satisfied with the expansion.
Yeah, the expansion itself is great. I mean, that's something we probably didn't touch up on, which we might have.
We talked about that like the first hour and 20 minutes.
Did we? Oh, yeah.
Well, we spent the first hour and 20 minutes mostly talking about the Malachi fight, but
Yeah.
So
Insane.
I think one symptom of it being problematic is that a lot of the temporary softcore league players that I know are currently playing standard because they took one look at warbands, tried it out a little bit, and they're like, "Wow, this is fucking stupid." Yeah, sorry for the F-bomb, but seriously, and they're gonna get bored of standard somewhat quickly because they've already got all their cool toys and everything. I feel that by not putting enough attention into the temp leagues, they run the risk of alienating a substantial portion of their player base.
that's true. I've been recommending everyone, even if they are people who typically like just focusing on one character in standard, to re-roll a new character in the challenge leagues to experience new content, because they've done so much work to rebalancing the entire leveling experience, like gem vendors, like a complete overhaul of zone layouts and zone levels, and like the entire leveling experience feels and is much more interesting now, feels much better. So I think it's worth re-rolling a new character just to experience that, even if the challenge leagues don't sound too exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there.
Let's take a little drawback here from all the content. Let's do some fun stuff. Let's look at some of the new uniques that got released. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
We're going to take a look here at the first one. It's Chimera's Mall. Or Chimera's Mall. There we go. English. Chimera's Mall.
This is Rich J Money's.
Rich J Money. This is the new, in quotes, Trollnir. They made
Trollnir.
Troll Shavs now on a Widow Silk robe, so Troll Shavs doesn't exist, but now there's a Trollnir because it's on a gavel. It's an MF gavel, but more importantly, I want to give a shout out to Rich J Money here. He lives in Minnesota by the Mall of America, and Chimeria is a anagram for America, so the Mall of America.
The Mall of America.
The Mall of America.
The actual 3D, the 2D art of it is a mall that is
eagle.
essentially a giant bald eagle's head on a stick.
America.
When Rich came over here, he was talking about doing it. I didn't know if he was actually going to make it, so it was just really funny to actually see it out.
But I figured with the whole America thing that it would be like something that's like kind of generic and usable by everybody, but this is literally usable by one build who probably wouldn't even like it. Like, this is for
It's so trolly.
a culling magic finding glacial hammerer.
So, to give you a bit of context to the design of this unique, Rich was talking about yesterday, he's not sure what divination card he wants to make. He has the designer one, and his first suggestion was to make a 1 out of 6 or a 6-stack card that gives a scroll of wisdom.
I thought
And
it was a fragment.
Or
No,
I think
'cause-
he offered a fragment. That was his like second follow-up idea, but GGG said they don't really want like a one-time
That's true.
joke added to the game, so
He spent
They told him to
$1,100
think of
bucks
something
on
else.
it. I
Said
mean,
the guys who gave us albino roa feathers and frickin' fishing rods. Wow.
I gave him
Well
some
played.
suggestions that could actually be useful. I was like, make something like like the Battleborn, but for a different weapon type. I was like, everyone would love that. And Rich is like, Ziggy, I don't want to make something that people would find useful.
I don't want to help. I don't want to be helpful.
I don't want to help people.
The funny thing about that is, if you use 6 divination cards to make a wisdom scroll, if you were to sell them, it's more valuable because 6 wisdom scraps is more valuable than 1 wisdom scroll.
What about a divination card for a fishing rod?
Yes, please.
Well, you can. Jack in the Box will
Oh.
give you the unique fishing rod. It's been
Will,
confirmed.
can,
It's been
can.
confirmed.
That said, all the context given, I actually kind of like this unique. I like the idea of equipping 2 of these and actually having a pretty decent amount of magic find, like competitive with Wind River.
Could we like
Terms of the amount of
spitball
magic finding
a
you can
build real quick that would use this? Because I am at a loss.
Just like Cyclone Collar or some shit.
Okay.
You have to freeze them to get the IIR.
Oh yeah, you use the new gloves. That's
Crit
easy.
cyclone color. Ah. Oh,
Yeah, that's-
southbound gloves. I like it.
Yeah, there's the gloves that don't let you kill something unless they're frozen.
There you
So
go.
then you get guaranteed 80 extra rarity every kill.
I'm gonna be
I
that
actually
guy.
kind of like. I would make a build with these.
I would never make a build with this, and I think he achieved the point here. It's a sickening unique, and it's gonna bug a shitload of people. Well played. I mean, that's what he wanted, and that's what he got.
Yeah. Well, good on him. He achieved what he went for. Oh, I never looked at the flavor text. You'll have my riches when you pry them from my cold, dead hands. That's how I prefer it. I like it. Well played, Rich.
Let's
Your item sucks, and I'm sure you love me for that.
let's look at the next one. I think this is like the special. You know, there's like last week we had that helmet from Softcore. I forgot the damn name of it. Remember the name of it, Cha? The spell
what?
damage helmet. You know, like that unique. That's like whoa. Forgot the name of it. Really good.
Right?
Scolds, yes. This is like the Scolds, I think, of this league. I'm not sure if it's league specific or not, but I saw this and I was like, that is overpowered. Let's explain how this works. For every frenzy charge you have, you get increased elemental damage. Obviously, it has different variations. For every endurance charge you have, you get increased physical damage, and for every power charge you have, you get increased spell damage. This can make insane damage, and it's on gloves. You have a chance to steal them, so you know that Claws of the Magpie type of effect. It has reduced endurance, frenzy charge, and power duration, which can go as high as 15%, I think I've seen, which you can easily counter. Almost every spellcaster can double dip with these. If you play an EK or Shockwave Totem, you can like get the effect of all three. What are your thoughts on this thing, Pox?
The only issue, so I've got like some pros and some cons. The first con you have to bring up immediately is that this is going to compete with Voidbringers and Malagaros. If you want damage, if you're sacrificing life, you're competing with both of those already. If you're an ES character, this has no ES, so that's also one thing to take note of. But this synergizes really well with that other, what's the chess piece called that doubles your charge duration? You know what I'm talking
Restless?
about?
Yeah.
Restless Ward. There you go. Because you can actually just use a Dodrace flask and keep almost 100% uptime, if not 100% uptime with your build on charges if you just have a fast clear speed, which gives you permanent buffs of all of these, which I think is pretty cool. Plus, you get the bonus of Enduring Cry, having that up, so you're more inclined to keep it up, and you get like a bonus from Restless Ward. You get the charges off this, the effects, and then you get the effects of the charges already. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's some nice stacking of different charges now, which is, I think the game was much more interesting now in regards to charges than when they first, were just released for just their base mechanics. Now that we have so many different items that you can combine together to give different effects to charges and make them function in different ways and different skills that use them, charges are a much more engaging mechanic now, and this is just one extra layer for that. To be clear, though, some people are confused about the mechanic. The Still Power, Frenzy, and Endurance charge on hit only works if mobs actually have some, so it's very, it only actually has an effect in, most of the time. It's only going to be like if you're doing maps that have charges on them.
As Teridorol said in chat, the Demon Disco Zana map, I think, is one of the places where this might shine a little bit more. But honestly, stealing the charges, like Claws of the Magpie, I know several people that really tried to push for it, and it just blows.
It's just a little like, oh cool, a cherry on top of my ice cream.
It's just a bit of theme, really.
I actually didn't mind it at all. As an actual claw cluster, I would say it's not on par with gaining like Onslaught or Crit Culling Strike. It's definitely not, but it has its uses. Because
the claw cluster is decent.
Yeah, the one thing I need to confirm is now you steal all their charges, like you steal all. Like the maximum, I believe, because when I was hitting with my claw character, I would instantly gain max.
Yep.
Okay, now when it steals it, it actually takes it away from them, correct? Like it's not
a nice defensive thing, yeah.
Well, against dischargers,
charges and stuff away.
Yeah, against dischargers, it's not bad. I mean, dischargers are a frequent mob if you're running or certain mobs. They're implicit on maps, so it's not bad to have. It's not the best thing by any means, but it does
it's
have.
Cute and has some benefits. Yeah. It's just cute.
That's a good point, though. Negating the really frightening mobs, like yes. I don't know about you guys, but I have died to grapplers so many freaking times that's actually a valid argument.
Yeah. If you have because I was using Reeve with claws, which I didn't like at all. It's pretty, but your Reeve, you're like hitting the whole screen anyway, so you're negating the charges off the mobs before they hit you.
I didn't think about the defensive benefits of it too much, but there are definitely some, especially now that Frenzy's a little more dangerous. Anything that's getting fed Frenzy charges and taking them away.
And also running maps when mobs have endurance charges on makes them substantially more tanky.
Yeah,
so you rip all that off.
On that.
Yep.
Something to talk about with these is if you're using Restless Ward, endurance charges are already giving you 120
life.
what is it? It's up to 120 regen. It's up 18 to 20 life regen per endurance charge if you're running a lot of them. Well, not 180, but you can get a lot of regen with Restless Ward, and now you're getting physical damage with it. Also, you're getting move speed per frenzy charge with that chest, so it has very nice synergy, and it counters the downside of these. No life on them, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I was saying of like the triple stacking you get. Like you're getting like 3 effects for some charges, like life regen, mitigation. Like it's crazy what it's giving you.
And we'll look at one more unique before we head out. We got Jack the Axe here, the Val Hatchet. What do you guys think of this thing? All right, let's see. I'll read it off the top. It's got IPD, it's got flat fizz, attack speed, an absolute butt ton of life leech. More than we've seen on anything since the nerf. And it has a 50% reduced life leech rate, so obviously this is Val Pact worthy. It causes bleeding on hit.
Don't care. He talks. I want it.
Yep, that's
That's pretty much what it boils down to for me.
This is a talking axe, yeah.
Does it work if you transmogrify?
Ooh, good question. Probably not, but I'll definitely give it a try for you.
What are its lines in relation to just like killing stuff or zones and stuff? Because it might be the sort of thing where you can. It's a level 65 axe, so you can only really, if it's got lines in relation to the content you're in, then you kind of have to go back to experience that.
It's using the feed on the souls of everything.
It's pretty damn awesome. Really cool, unique.
I like the bleed on hit from it. I mean, I think that's one of the highlights.
Yeah,
on
totally.
It.
Like if you're using just Vengeance, that will proc the bleed, and then you can have Bloodlust on your main attack, or you can have a movement skill to proc the bleed as well. Anything else besides the Bloodlust skill?
There's
quite a few options.
Yeah.
Something to talk about transmogrify. The Malagaro belt. You can now transmogrify the bubble now. Before you couldn't. So yay!
Ah,
Cool
yes.
stuff. The
Nice.
bubble.
Oh wait,
If
we
you-
can transfer.
If you skin transfer.
Yeah, you can.
Whoa.
That's what I mean. By
That's nice.
transmogging it over, you can skin
Cool.
transfer it.
How about the other one, the Deceiver one?
Belt of the Deceiver. Isn't
I
that
don't
the
know.
one?
Maybe.
Like
We'll
it's
have
got
to see.
it's got
Got
like
that
the little
cool
purple
edgy-
circle thing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It looks so cool. It looks like a Discipline MTX, right? But it's purple.
Yeah.
Yep.
What if you use both of them?
The Belt of the Deceiver one just kind of looks like a
They're
little
both
black shade
belts.
hanging around your butt.
No, like the Discipline MTX. I'm saying with
Wait,
the
so
belt.
you're saying I take the Malagaro MTX and I skin it onto a Belt of the Deceiver so I get both visual effects in the same?
No.
With the
No,
discipline
no.
bubble.
Yeah,
He's
with
talking about
the discipline. I'm talking
bubble.
about
Yeah,
the Discipline
I wonder what
bubbles.
happens
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this
Zeno's saying apparently you can skin it onto
I
anything.
want all 3
Get it.
bubbles. I want to be a bubble boy. It's my new build.
Skin it.
And then get one of those Tempests with the the
Proximity shield.
proximity shield, and
And then use Headhunter and get a proximity shield.
Cool
I
stuff.
see where this is going.
Well, anyways, one last thing before we head out. Someone was in my chat yesterday. And they said that they're going to try and create a divination card that features every single one of the 9 bosses of the Awakening to drop a random unique of that. And I thought that was pretty cool. You're going to get a lot of trash, but you get a lot of cool stuff. That was just a little tidbit in there. Before we go to, we didn't have time for a Q&A today because there's just so much to talk about. Cha, if you want to give a shout out about your stream, YouTube, whatever you got.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. Wait, no, I don't use that. Facebook. Wait, no, I don't use that either. Tumblr. No, wait, I don't use that. Twitch.tv/cha_su_bao. That's pretty much it. I have a YouTube channel to which I posted literally one video, and that was a guide to a build called Summon Raging Miners, which is SRS with a Tremor Rod. It is Tsubi viable for all yo haters. Just saying. Other than that, I just like to play Path of Exile and communicate with the community. That's all. That's really all it boils down to. But thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to plug myself and shamelessly whore myself to the world.
Thanks for coming on the show, Joe.
Thanks,
It's good
Cha.
having you here, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
Pleasure.
And as for next episode, I'm trying to get a GGG dev. No one confirmed yet, but heads up, it'll be 2 weeks from now, as long as everybody here knows that. Cool, 2 weeks from now. That's all I got. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Sorry about the Q&A. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It's too much.
Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Ziggy D, and thanks for watching.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, please. Pox, why don't you do your hello and welcome, everybody?
Well, that's on the opening, not on the ending. Why? Hello and welcome, everybody. It is Pox again.
Oh.
So
I can't. I feel so bad saying that with a salty taste.